Chap 19, Chen Xiaobian Catches Ghosts, Part 1. Early in the morning, a car was seen driving into Guanling village. Since it was early, there was no one around. The car moved quite fast, turned through a few roads, and stopped in front of a house. A man in a western suit stepped out of the car. The sound of the car outside woke Xiaobian up. He had to sit up, yawn, and grumble a few sentences. Annoying, waking me up so early in the morning. When Xiaobian opened his room door, he saw his father already sitting at the table, and at the same time, the voice of a man suddenly rang out. Only then did Xiaobian notice a middle-aged man standing in front of his room door. "What's wrong? You don't remember me? The 500 yuan I gave you was truly a waste." Xiaobian immediately remembered. Wasn't this Qin the Big Trouble from the days of retrieving floating corpses in the river? His father had even advised him to interact less with this person, so why did he suddenly show up here today? When Chen Lagos spoke, Xiaobian finally understood. It turned out that a rather mysterious case had occurred recently, and fearing that ghosts were causing trouble, they invited the father and son to resolve it. Their side was investigating the case and wanted our father and son to help, but his father was getting old and didn't want to get involved in this matter. In Chen Lagos' tone, there was a hint of not wanting to associate with this Qin the Big Trouble, yet he couldn't just stand by and watch. Hearing Chen Lagos say this, Qin the Big Trouble put his arm around Xiaobian's shoulder, implying that it would be fine for Xiaobian to go in Chen Lagos' place. Xiaobian was no fool. He knew clearly what old Qin's intention was. Sending him to go meant that if he couldn't handle it, it would force his father to step in, so he hurriedly refused. The ball was kicked back to Chen Lagos, but what Xiaobian didn't expect was that his father didn't refuse but agreed to let him go. After all, he was grown up, and it was time to let him venture out on his own of it.
Chen Xiaobian understood now. It turned out his father and old Qin had discussed this beforehand, wanting him to leave the house for a trip. Xiaobian immediately asked old Qin, "So is there a reward this time?" Old Qin replied, 700 yuan, not a cent less. How about it? Xiaobian looked closely at old Qin in front of him, thinking he had to seize this opportunity to make a big haul, otherwise he would be doing himself a disservice. He said, "I want to call another assistant. 700 yuan is too little to split. It must be at least 2,000 yuan. In truth, Chen Xiaobian himself wanted to test his abilities. He had followed his father for over 10 years, but didn't know the extent of his own capabilities. After everything was settled, Xiaobian immediately went to prepare his gear, ready to set off. After agreeing on the price with Xiaobian, old Qin drove him to a house at the foot of a mountain, 20 li away from Guanling village. "This is the house," old Qin said. "It has claimed over a dozen lives. Since this house was built, a total of 4 couples have died here. Tell me, isn't that strange, Xiaobian?" After hearing old Qin's introduction, Xiaobian realized the severity of the matter. With so many deaths, this was likely no small affair. In front of them was a tree, on which hung a pair of men and women. They weren't very old and have been dead for a long time. This was still the first time Xiaobian had seen hanged corpses. Their faces were pale green, eyes bulging out, looking extremely terrifying.
Chen Xiaobian panicked a little upon seeing this. Before Xiaobian could say a word, old Qin stuffed money into his pocket. Without waiting for Xiaobian's reply, old Qin snapped his fingers and told the people under the tree, "All right, stop looking. Let's bring the body down." The Joint Defense team members were inspecting the area under the tree. Receiving the order, they became even busier. While everyone was cleaning up the corpse, Xiaobian stood observing the tree in the house. Xiaobian had a plan in mind, but without his father there, he wasn't 100% confident. However, since things had reached this stage, he could only move forward. By nightfall, Chen Xiaobian had prepared everything and returned. This time, he brought Lu Dajang from the same village along. The price Xiaobian used to tempt Dagong was very cheap, only 200 yuan. Dagong naturally agreed immediately. Although 200 yuan wasn't a huge amount, it was more than what Dagong earned working hard selling dry rations at the market. The two talked as they walked. When discussing catching ghosts, Xiaobian repeatedly warned Dagong, "When you see the ghost, don't be so scared you piss your pants." Dagong was usually very brave, but they had barely spoken a few sentences when Xiaobian's face suddenly changed color. Xiaobian pulled Dagong down into the roadside grass, carefully looking in one direction. Xiaobian said to Dagong, "Get the stick out of the bag for me. Hurry up. I see that thing right in front of us." Seeing this, Dagong got a bit tense and took out a long wooden stick to hand to Xiaobian.
Then Xiaobian took out a fletched needle and stuffed it into a bamboo tube. Dagong stared blankly at Xiaobian's actions for a moment, but Xiaobian had his reasons. He aimed the tube toward the other side. Xiaobian boomed hard, and the needle inside shot out like lightning. Dagong looked in the direction Xiaobian had shot and saw that he seemed to have hit a wild chicken. Seeing that he hit the target, Xiaobian was very happy and told Dagong to go retrieve it. Only then did Dagong understand that Xiaobian acting mysterious all this time was just to steal a chicken. Dagong was full of annoyance, but what could he say to Xiaobian now? Growing up together, he understood Xiaobian's personality too well. The two went into the house in the forest, built a fire, and started butchering the chicken. That little bit of meat wasn't enough to fill Xiaobian's teeth, while Dagong only got to eat the chicken neck on the side.
After finishing the chicken, Chen Xiaobian spoke about catching the ghost again. Now that we're done eating, we must get to work. Catching the ghost this time won't be simple at all. Seeing Chen Xiaobian's serious demeanor, Dagong also became tense. From now on, every step we take must not have any errors. But who knew, his next step turned out to be sleeping soundly. Dagong now realized he had been played by this Chen Xiaobian. He said there wouldn't be any ghosts before the hour of the rat. There was still some time left before the ghost-catching moment, so the two of them felt reassured enough to roll over and sleep. Nearing the hour of the rat, Chen Xiaobian suddenly opened his eyes wide because he heard footsteps behind him. He also understood clearly that the thing that needed to come had finally arrived. Chen Xiaobian gently turned around and saw a figure walking out from inside the house, immediately chuckling to himself, knowing his plan had succeeded. It turned out to be Dagong. Right now, he seemed to have lost all consciousness, as if controlled by a massive force to walk outside. In fact, this was exactly Chen Xiaobian's plan. While Dagong was fast asleep, Chen Xiaobian blew out the 3 life fire candles beside Dagong to make him easily possessed by the ghost. Chen Xiaobian used Dagong as bait, wanting to know what the specific situation was.
Seeing Dagong walking out just like a puppet, Chen Xiaobian immediately followed behind. Seeing Dagong just step out the door, he immediately took a rope hanging ready on the wall. This rope had also been prepared by Chen Xiaobian beforehand. Dagong took the rope and walked to that tree, while Chen Xiaobian never stopped observing him from behind. At this moment, Dagong found a large block of wood, stood on it, threw the rope over a tree branch, and put his head through the noose. Dagong kicked his leg once, the wood block fell away from his feet. Any delay, and his life would have been lost right there. Chen Xiaobian saw the time had come and rushed like an arrow towards Dagong. As he ran, Chen Xiaobian whipped the Guanding Suo up onto the tree branch. The Guanding Suo wrapped tightly around the branch. Chen Xiaobian wrapped the other rope around his hand and climbed up. When he reached the same height as Dagong, Chen Xiaobian didn't rush to save him, but formed the Guanding Suo into a circle at the same level as Dagong's head, pulled the Guanding Suo open, and looked through it. Looking through that loop towards the house, sure enough, there was a discovery. Chen Xiaobian immediately saw 2 dark shadows standing in front of the house door. Chen Xiaobian had long suspected the problem wasn't with the tree, but with the house. He could only use this method to investigate the truth. In front of the door were a man and a woman wearing Republic of China-era clothing, covered in fresh blood from head to toe, their faces still wearing sinister smiles. After identifying their location, Chen Xiaobian knew if he didn't save Dagong now, he would surely lose his life, so he quickly used a knife to cut the rope. As Dagong fell, Chen Xiaobian jumped down as well. Upon landing, Dagong gasped for air incessantly, his consciousness gradually recovering. At this moment, Chen Xiaobian didn't worry about Dagong anymore. He immediately threw a small object towards the house, then took the blowpipe from earlier and inserted a steel needle. Dagong was still feeling very dazed, while Chen Xiaobian was aiming the steel needle at the house. The small object Chen Xiaobian had just thrown was hit by the flying steel needle and tore open, causing the powder inside to fly out. The 2 ghost shadows that others couldn't see were covered by this powder and immediately appeared very clearly. Chen Xiaobian ran ahead and called for Dagong, who was still stunned behind him, to follow. The 2 rushed to the house, and indeed there was a discovery. They only saw that powder turn into a white streak flying towards the corner of the wall, then vanish. At this moment, 2 white spots appeared in the corner of the wall. Chen Xiaobian told Lu Dazhang to keep watch while he went out to get some tools. Chen Xiaobian took a knife and stabbed one of the white spots, then took a pair of scissors and stabbed the other. Chen Xiaobian addressed those 2 things as "you people," implying that stabbing them with these sharp objects would keep them trapped inside. Then Chen Xiaobian took the wild chicken blood from earlier and poured it over the knife and scissors to suppress their power. Chen Xiaobian's actions initially seemed to show a lack of trust in Lu Dazhang, yet he unexpectedly turned to ask Lu Dazhang what to do next. According to Lu Dazhang, they should investigate who these entities were. Just as a flicker of admiration for Chen Xiaobian had ignited, he immediately started acting pretentiously as usual, and Lu Dazhang's admiration was instantly extinguished.
Chapter 20. Chen Xiaobian Catches Ghosts, Part 2. Chen Xiaobian and Da Gong spent the entire session struggling to seal 2 ghosts underground right inside their own house. Da Gong followed Chen Xiaobian's instructions, but always felt this boastful guy was unreliable, especially with his arrogant attitude, which made Da Gong unable to feel at ease. Chen Xiaobian was very confident in his method. Besides stabbing a knife and scissors into the ground and pouring chicken blood over them, he also made a cage using a carpenter's ink marker line to surround them, considering the job done. Da Gong didn't understand what Chen Xiaobian was saying. He thought catching ghosts meant physically fighting them, but not seeing even a shadow of a ghost all night left him a bit disappointed. Chen Xiaobian knew that the living meeting ghosts brings 3 years of bad luck and damages one's lifespan, but hearing Da Gong speak moved him a little. Da Gong's words made sense. Meeting them briefly probably wouldn't hurt, and who knows, maybe they would reveal the location of the treasure. So Chen Xiaobian told Da Gong to go find some mugwort still wet with dew to satisfy Da Gong, saying maybe they could find some clues from that Republic of China-era ghost. Chen Xiaobian sweet-talked Da Gong into doing the work, while he stayed behind, busily preparing other items. For this ghost catching, Chen Xiaobian had prepared everything. He brought whatever he could. He rummaged through his bag and pulled out a white cloth. When Da Gong brought the mugwort back, he saw Chen Xiaobian spreading the white cloth over the ghost cage. Seeing Da Gong return, Chen Xiaobian immediately asked him to hand over the dewy mugwort. Chen Xiaobian used force to whip the mugwort towards the white cloth, causing the dewdrops to soak it. Chen Xiaobian demonstrated how to do it and then left the task to Da Gong, while he lit white candles on the window frame behind the white cloth. By this time, the white cloth was completely soaked by Da Gong. After preparing, Chen Xiaobian took out a soul-summoning talisman, struck a pose, and pasted the talisman on the ground. Heaven's way is clear, the great way is far-reaching. Unjust souls here come quickly to report, urgent as the law commands. Chen Xiaobian was showing off in the front, but behind him, Da Gong said something that almost made him die of anger. To be honest, your pose from the front is very cool, but your butt from behind doesn't look good at all. After pasting the talisman, Chen Xiaobian took a chair and sat with his legs crossed as if watching a movie. Da Gong really felt this person was unreliable. Catching ghosts felt more like acting in a play. While Da Gong didn't understand what Chen Xiaobian was doing, 2 black shadows appeared behind the white cloth. The 2 shadows slowly emerged from below, looking more and more like human figures, clearly projected on the white cloth, just like watching a movie.
Although they were just the shadows of 2 ghosts, one could clearly see a male and a female looking quite intimate, like a married couple or lovers. Just a moment ago, Da Gong felt disappointed about not seeing any ghosts, but now that he saw them, he was terrified and took 2 steps back. Xiaobian had followed his father for over 10 years and had long since become immune to these things. He told Da Gong not to be afraid, explaining that using this method to see ghosts would cause no harm, and furthermore, they couldn't get out. Ignoring Da Gong, Xiaobian turned to speak to the 2 ghosts. "You 2, do you know who I am? I am Chen Xiaobian, the #1 under the heavens. Speak up, why are you here harming people?" After hearing Xiaobian's question, the 2 ghosts not only didn't answer, but acted even more intimate. "Brother Yukai, who are they? I'm so scared," the female ghost said. The male ghost hugged her and comforted, "Lianhua, don't be afraid, I'm here." The male ghost named Yukai clenched his fists, glaring fiercely at Xiaobian as if protecting his woman. "Who are you people? How dare you provoke us? Let's see how I deal with you." The male ghost flew up, as if trying to rush out to harm them, but he hit Xiaobian's ink line. The ink line vibrated, emitting a sizzling sound. The male ghost couldn't jump out, and even had his soul damaged. However, the 2 ghosts didn't mind displaying their affection in front of strangers again, giving Da Gang and Chen Xiaobian goosebumps. The male ghost said, "Lianhua, my love, rest assured. For you, I am willing to brave a mountain of blades and a sea of fire." Seeing the 2 ghosts about to kiss, Chen Xiaobian pretended to cough, to remind them, then continued to ask, "Don't say I didn't warn you to. If you still don't speak, I will drop the ink line onto the ground.
You know very well what that tastes like." Knowing their situation, the two ghosts actively cooperated. The male ghost revealed his background. "We are from the Republic of China era, a couple who truly loved each other." It turned out they were lovers living in the Republic of China era. Because their family backgrounds were quite good, both were well educated and even participated in a poetry society where they became lovers. Good dreams didn't last long. The patriarchs of both families did not approve of this marriage. They followed the Western style and ran away to live independently. But as young people who had never experienced the hardships of life, they didn't know how to survive. At the peak of their romance, they couldn't bear the thought of being separated if they returned home. Their love at that time seemed capable of overcoming everything. Chen Xiaobian silently cursed. All right, just telling the story is enough. Is there a need to actually kiss like that?" The couple then made a decision to commit suicide together on this tree. After the incident was discovered, their bodies were taken back by their respective families for burial. Since then, neither family could find peace. Every night they heard miserable crying, making it unbearable for the living. Thus, the two families decided to bury them together in a single grave under the tree, considering it a fulfillment of their wish to be together. The two of them knew that after going down to the underworld, they would have to drink Mengpo's soup and continue into reincarnation, but they didn't want to be apart, so they spent every day anxiously hiding from the ghost messengers. Hearing this, Chen Xiaobian was somewhat touched, but why exactly were they harming people? When mentioning harming people, both of them became agitated and said, "It was the Earth Jiao who forced us to harm people. It wasn't that we wanted to harm anyone. It was the Earth Jiao. It protected us from the ghost messengers on the condition that we lure people into committing suicide. We didn't want to live through days like this anymore. We wanted to reincarnate, but the Earth Jiao wouldn't let us."
Hearing the female ghost say that, the male ghost immediately got angry. "Sister Lianhua, do you want to reincarnate? Why did you say we would be together for lifetime after lifetime?" The female ghost replied, "Don't think I didn't see you glance at the neighbor ghost yesterday." Xiaobian couldn't stand this couple anymore and wanted to ask for details about the two Jiao they mentioned. But before he could ask, the sound of a rooster crowing was heard. Xiaobian immediately said, "Not good." Upon hearing the rooster crow, the two ghosts panicked and demanded to leave. No matter what Xiaobian said, the two ghosts could not go against the will of heaven. When the time came, they had to burrow underground, leaving only the white cloth behind. Dagong saw Xiaobian's urgent look and thought he wanted more information about the two Jiao to deal with it, but it turned out he was dazedly regretting that he hadn't asked the two ghosts if they had buried any treasure in their house yet. Dagong heard that the two ghosts were forced by the two Jiao to do bad deeds and thought they probably didn't have it easy. But Xiaobian didn't think so. According to Xiaobian, harming others' lives to protect oneself is unforgivable no matter what. After the rooster crowed, the sky brightened, and Xiaobian told Dagong to prepare tools. Dagong followed Xiaobian's instructions, found a shovel, and dug right at the grave of the two ghosts. Dagong dug up two corpses that had rotted over time, probably over 100 years. The coffins and clothes had all decomposed, leaving only two sets of white bones. Fortunately, this was a desolate place where no one came. Otherwise, people would say the two guys were abnormal for digging up white bones to dry in the sun in broad daylight. Seeing black gas rising from the pile of white bones under the sunlight, Dagong thought back to last night and looked at Xiaobian differently. Dagong was also very curious about the two Jiao mentioned by the two ghosts, so he asked Xiaobian what exactly the two Jiao was.
Xiaobian had never seen one either, but he had heard Lao Go talk about it before. If it could be called a Jiao, it was certainly no ordinary snake. It would have at least 300 years of cultivation, scales on its back, and a horn on its head. It resembled a dragon, hence it was called a Jiao. Xiaobian only recounted that much before his memory faded. The only impression left in Xiaobian's mind was that the Jiao's horn was very valuable and could be sold for a lot of money. Hearing that it was valuable, Dagong's eyes lit up, but Xiaobian calmed down. Even his father wouldn't dare to rashly provoke that Jiao, so how could they possibly dare to deal with such a thing? While the two were talking, they saw a car driving up. As soon as Xiaobian saw old Qin, he immediately stood up to greet him. Qin the Big Trouble, although aged, had an improper personality. As soon as he met the junior, he praised, "Indeed, a tiger father begets a tiger son. You really are worthy of being Chen Lago's son." However, Xiaobian started to have a very good impression of this old Qin. After all, he was very generous and spent money lavishly. Old Qin walked up to Xiaobian, put his arm around his shoulder, and stuffed money into Xiaobian's pocket while talking. It was then that Xiaobian realized
Old Qin had come to pay the remaining balance, and his impression of Old Qin improved even more. After giving the money to Xiaobian, Old Qin immediately waved goodbye, saying one last thing before leaving. "I've paid off the remaining 2,000 yuan. If anything happens next time, I'll come find you again. Goodbye."
Chen Xiaobian stood behind, watching Old Qin's car drive away. Waiting until he was gone, Chen Xiaobian muttered to himself, asking why he had to shout after paying. Was he regretting the money? Turning back, he saw Da Gong fuming with rage. Only then did Chen Xiaobian realize Old Qin had said it on purpose. Da Gong hadn't expected Chen Xiaobian to share so little money with him. No wonder Chen Laogo had warned Da Gong to interact less with this cunning Chen Xiaobian. Naturally, Chen Xiaobian wouldn't admit to this. Luckily, Da Gong didn't quite understand what Old Qin meant about settling the remaining amount. Otherwise, he would have likely demanded a larger share. Chapter 21. Will of Heaven. After Chen Xiaobian and Da Gong finished dealing with the two ghosts possessing the suicide victims, Chen Xiaobian carried his tools home. Because the money was exposed, he had to share more with Da Gong, putting Chen Xiaobian in a very bad mood. Exhausted from the whole night, it wasn't easy for Chen Xiaobian to finally get home. He just wanted to roll onto his bed and sleep. Just as he opened the door, an arm reached straight out, startling Chen Xiaobian into stepping back. The hands bumped into Chen Xiaobian's face, constantly feeling around. When the hands withdrew, Chen Xiaobian finally saw clearly that it was blind old Lu, whom the father and son had met at the market. Blind old Lu felt that it was Chen Xiaobian. Having just finished a transaction with Chen Laogo, the blind man seemed to be in a very good mood. Chen Xiaobian listened for a while, but couldn't understand. His father said that treasures only fetch a good price when sold to someone who needs them. What exactly did old Lu trade with his father? Chen Xiaobian walked into the house and saw his father sitting at the table smoking. After exchanging a couple of words with his father, Chen Xiaobian was immediately attracted to the pile of items on the table. Chen Xiaobian stood there stunned, speechless, his eyes widening, staring, unblinking. It turned out there were many stacks of money on the table, which scared the soul out of Chen Xiaobian. A poor person like him had never seen so much money before. For Chen Xiaobian, this amount was a huge figure. He looked at the money, stammering and unable to speak properly, wondering how a poor man like his father could remain so calm seeing this much money. Chen Laogo paid no attention to his son's emotions. He tapped his tobacco pipe on the table, signaling Chen Xiaobian to sit down, his expression quite serious. Chen Laogo took 2 more puffs of smoke and then told Chen Xiaobian about what happened in the village yesterday. Just yesterday morning, a flock of black crows, coming from who knows where, circled in the sky above the village. The villagers did not have a good impression of black crows. If a black crow entered anyone's house, it was an omen of bad luck, because black crows could smell death and specialized in eating rotting flesh. Every time they appeared, it forecasted that someone would die.
However, yesterday, the black crows didn't fly into anyone's house. Instead, they perched on the roof and power lines surrounding an elementary school. The sight of a pitch-black flock of crows terrified the residents. This elementary school wasn't very large, and there weren't many students, only from 1st to 3rd grade. Parents taking their children to school early in the morning all witnessed this strange scene. Although it was a bit peculiar, in recent years no one believed in superstitions anymore. They discussed it excitedly for a while, then let their children go to school for fear of missing their lessons. At that moment, Chen Laogo happened to be passing by. Seeing this situation, he didn't say a word, just stood there quietly watching. Initially, Laogo didn't sense anything amiss, thinking that perhaps a stray cat or dog had died in the school, attracting the crows. But then he noticed something else. Laogo discovered many rats at the foot of the school building's wall, scurrying outward along the wall. Looking closely, these rats appeared very panicked, as if running one step too slow would cost them their lives. This was also an omen. By now, Laogo was a bit worried, so he walked into a deserted alley. Laogo went straight into a dead-end corner, sat down, took a handful of glutinous rice from his pocket, and scattered it into a circle. Then he lit his pipe and sat smoking. This was his Chuma ritual gesture. As soon as the smoke rose, before long, the northern wild immortal, Hu Jia Xian was summoned. Upon hearing Laogo ask about the elementary school, Hu Xian immediately advised him not to interfere.
This disaster was the will of heaven, and humans could not go against it. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. More than a dozen young lives in the school were destined to die. This was heaven's will. There was no way to salvage it. After speaking, Huxian mentioned one more thing. Behind this matter, there was an Earth Jiao monster playing tricks, wanting to seize this opportunity to cause chaos. Huxian didn't dare to interfere, but that Earth Jiao was about to undergo its 500-year Great Tribulation. If one had the heart, one could take this opportunity to save the lives of a few children. But Laogo, if you want to save them, I will risk this life to help you. Who asked me to owe you a life anyway? At most, I won't cultivate immortality anymore and return to the path of a demon. Knowing he couldn't persuade Laogo, Huxian decided to follow Laogo to the end.
After listening to the Fox Immortal, Chen Laogo thought to himself that although the Fox Immortal's cultivation was not high, it dared to offend the Earth Jiao for his sake. Since it went against the will of heaven, what did an old man like him have to fear? Finishing his cigarette, he clasped his hands behind his back and walked towards the elementary school. But what he didn't expect was that sometimes animals understand principles, but humans do not. That teacher crossed his arms and said, "No way. Relying on a few words from you to make the children miss their lessons? Absolutely impossible." The principal of this school was the only person in the village with a university education. He had taught outside for a few years, but was sent back to the village to manage the elementary school due to poor performance. Hearing Chen Laogo speak, he immediately mocked. "Chen Laogo, I know many people in the village admire your skills, but they are all ignorant and uncultured people. I am not like them. Don't think you can take advantage of me." Without waiting for Chen Laogo to reply, the principal immediately stood up to see the guest out. Chen Laogo didn't say anything more. This time, Chen Laogo decided he had to intervene, so he wouldn't be swayed by a few words from that man. Next, Chen Laogo, a doctor without a medical license in the village, somehow got a chair and sat in front of the school gate, refusing to let parents enter. Parents bringing their children discussed animatedly, attracting many curious villagers. Some parents wanted to rush past and get physical with Chen Laogo, but at this moment, Chen Laogo exuded a majestic and imposing aura, like a deity descending to earth, no longer looking like the ordinary Chen Laogo of everyday life, making many people dare not approach. Although they dared not get close, their mouths kept chattering, blaming Chen Laogo for making their children miss school time. Very quickly, this matter reached the principal's ears again. He scolded Chen Laogo, but Chen Laogo still treated him as invisible. And at this moment, suddenly the principal and parents heard barking sounds from behind. Everyone turned their heads to look and saw a pack of wild dogs approaching. The leader was the corpse-eating dog, Chen Laogo's capable assistant. It also cultivated the Tao of Immortals and knew that going against the will of heaven would damage its cultivation, but it was not afraid, nor did it need to cultivate. It followed a path of fearing neither heaven nor earth.
Seeing the corpse-eating dog arrive, Chen Laogo said nothing, merely snapping his fingers as a signal. The dog raised its head and barked twice. Immediately after, the corpse-eating dog led the pack of stray dogs charging straight into the school. The pack spread out across the campus, surrounding the classrooms and entering them. The barking terrified the children, causing them to flee outside. Although the stray dogs barked and growled, terrifying the children to the core, they did not harm them at all. The frightened children ran to their parents. The villagers wanted to chase the dogs away, but seeing their ferocious appearance, no one dared to approach. The principal was furious. Seeing the dogs, he knew Chen Laogo was up to something, and awkwardly claimed that Chen Laogo was casting sorcery. The parents were enraged to see their children scared to death. Everyone thought Chen Laogo had gone too far this time and ceased criticizing him. Just at that moment, the school building suddenly let out a loud rumble. When the parents turned to look, their jaws dropped. The ground shook violently, and the entire elementary school collapsed. Now, the school was nothing but a chaotic pile of rubble, with smoke billowing and tiles and bricks scattered everywhere. It was then that everyone realized Chen Laogo's eccentric behavior earlier was intended to save those children. They turned to look at Chen Laogo with embarrassment.
Who would have known that during that panic, Chen Laogo had already left early? He didn't forget to snap his fingers once. The alpha dog seemed to receive the command, barked once, and then commanded the pack of stray dogs to retreat. In truth, Chen Laogo's personality was very much like the corpse-eating dog. He didn't care about any will of heaven, nor did he need to live to be 100 years old. He simply did whatever he pleased. After the incident occurred, the villagers at this moment all felt remorse. If it hadn't been for Chen Laogo, the consequences would have been unimaginable. From the bottom of their hearts, they were even more grateful to Chen Laogu. As for the principal, there was nothing left to say. After Chen Laogu finished telling the story, a voice was immediately heard from outside the door. "Master Go, I am here." As soon as the words fell, the door was pushed open, and a man about 40 years old, wearing military fatigues and looking very tough, walked in. Entering the house and looking at the pile of money on the table, the person only said one sentence and then scooped all the money into his bag. This person seemed to have a friendship with Chen Laogu. He didn't sit down either, but lit a cigarette, took a drag, and said to Chen Laogu, "Rest assured, he will definitely do his utmost." That person spoke a few sentences with Chen Laogu and then turned to leave, not staying for too long. At this moment, Chen Xiaobin didn't need Chen Laogu to say another word. He already understood what Chen Laogu wanted to do. He had sold all the valuable things in the house to build a primary school.
Chen Laogu saw his son bowing his head in silence for a long time. Usually, Xiaobian loved money so much, let alone the sum of over 100,000 yuan that was right in front of him just now. Chen Laogu sighed. "Our father and son duo are poor again like before. Are you heartbroken?" But unexpectedly, Xiaobian stood up abruptly, took out a stack of money from his pocket, and placed it on the table, not caring much about the hundreds of thousands of yuan from earlier. "Dad, in your eyes, am I that kind of person? If we don't have money, we can earn it. This is the money I earned from Chin the Big Trouble. There's still about 1,600 yuan left, enough for the two of us to eat and drink. You are getting old. From now on, just let me handle such hard work." After speaking his mind, Xiaobian stretched and went into the bedroom. Xiaobian's words made Chen Laogu feel very relieved. This child calculated every penny and loved money like his own life, yet he could distinguish the importance of things. Perhaps in the future, Xiaobian could become even more successful than Chen Laogu. Thus, the savings of the father and son were all used to build the school, returning them to their former life of poverty. However, Xiaobian had grown up and could be independent, filling Chen Laogu with hope for the days to come. Chapter 22. Yasheng. Early in the morning, many motor vehicles arrived to clear the rubble of the elementary school. Many people were busy preparing for construction, with excavators digging and materials being transported. Chen Laogu led Xiaobian to stand outside the gate and watch. Seeing this, he felt very reassured. Seeing that the manpower and machinery were sufficient, the father and son thought that the soldier named Song Ming had not gone against their wishes and had even put his own money into this. The father and son returned home with peace of mind, talking about the middle-aged man named Song Ming as they walked. When Chen Laogu mentioned Song Ming, he smiled and told Chen Xiaobian about him. It turned out that Song Ming was also a villager. He enlisted in the army during the Reform and Liberation period. When he returned, his friends had all made a fortune, but he alone remained poor as a church mouse. This man had the qualities of a soldier and never succumbed to failure. After returning, he relied on his own strength, unafraid of hardship, to plant grapes on the mountainside. 2 years later, he had a lush vineyard. He spent another 2 years caring for it, and when the harvest season came, Song Ming truly made a fortune. His life became better day by day, and he even married the most beautiful wife in the region. Even with money, Song Ming did not think about enjoyment. He invited a classmate who worked in architecture to build a house next to the vineyard. This classmate had previously led a few villagers to the city to build houses, and it was said that he was not bad. However, in recent years he hadn't made any money, and had even divorced, so his life was a bit difficult. Song Ming listened to the rumors and let him help build the house, paying slightly higher wages as a way to help an old classmate. Song Ming was an honest man and had a friendship of over 20 years with this friend, so he felt very assured letting him do the work. After making the decision, Song Ming didn't worry much. He was busy renovating the vineyard, while the old vineyard site was now being turned into a house. That friend was quite efficient. In less than a month, 8 tiled rooms and a vineyard area were completed, looking very luxurious from afar. But after Song Ming's family happily moved in, accidents began to happen one after another.
It started when Song Ming's mother went to dry vegetables. A weight hanging on the wall inexplicably fell and hit the old lady right on the head. The wound was quite serious, bleeding profusely. His father had died early, leaving only his elderly mother, so Song Ming anxiously carried her to the hospital, telling his wife to stay and look after the house. After taking his mother to the hospital, Song Ming was exhausted and hadn't eaten yet. Past 10 p.m., he walked home. Suddenly, he was hit by a small truck, flinging him more than 10 meters away. Perhaps the driver was sleepy and wasn't paying attention. The driver panicked, woke up fully, saw he had hit someone, and immediately fled.
Seeing the truck run away, Song Ming wanted to chase after it, but he was heavily injured. Having been a soldier, Song Ming had a robust constitution. He managed to crawl to the hospital with a broken leg, which took several months to recover. While he and his mother were in the hospital, his newlywed wife was home alone. Every night she dreamt of dark shadows wandering in the house, and sometimes heard strange noises. Song Ming insisted on being discharged early. By this time, his wife at home had been frightened into illness. He had to care for his wife at home and his mother at the hospital, plus dealing with his broken leg. After a while, he was completely exhausted. To say he wasn't tired would be a lie, running back and forth all day until night to rest. But these past few days, chickens were missing from the house, so he angrily took a chair out to watch and see who was stealing them. While half asleep, he heard chickens squawking from the cage. He opened his eyes and saw a yellow weasel approaching the cage. He didn't know how the weasel did it, but several chickens had their necks bitten and died instantly before they could even scream. This time, Song Ming was furious. Bad luck piled on top of misfortune. Where did this beast come from to cause trouble? He wanted to chase it, but his injured leg prevented him from running. On the second day, Song Ming placed traps in front of the chicken coop, and sure enough, a small weasel about 1 shi long was trapped and killed. But unexpectedly, just as the weasel was killed, his wife, who was resting sick inside, pushed the door open. His wife looked terrifying at this moment, holding a sharp knife, her eyes full of red blood streaks, smiling grotesquely. "Your whole family is about to die. You dare to touch us. Isn't it just a few chickens?" Her words confused him, but before he could react, his wife rushed at him with the knife. Fortunately, Song Ming came from a military background and had quick reflexes. He didn't know what was wrong with his wife or why she was suddenly so strong, but he still managed to subdue her. Because her appearance was abnormal, he had to temporarily tie her up. He limped out to find help. At that time, Chen Laogo had not yet had his license revoked and was still the village doctor, so Song Ming invited him to examine his wife.
Hearing Song Ming recount the story, Chen Laogo examined the wife's condition and understood the situation somewhat in his heart. Chen Laogo used a long needle to pierce her Tianling acupoint. Strangely enough, while she had been cursing incessantly before, she sat still immediately after being pricked. Chen Laogo instructed Song Ming to take care of his wife while he himself went outside. Song Ming did not understand what Chen Laogo was doing. Instead of treating his wife, he was going elsewhere. He watched and saw Chen Laogo bending down to rummage through something in the warehouse. Before long, Chen Laogo dragged out a yellow weasel about 1/2 meter long. "You beast, daring to come here and harm people. I see you are tired of living." Then Chen Laogo threw the weasel out into the yard and seemed to be talking to someone unknown. A moment later, Song Ming saw a large fox spirit appear and drag the weasel away. It glanced at Chen Laogo once before leaving. As soon as the weasel was dragged away, the wife woke up and called for her husband. She seemed to have regained her sanity. Chen Laogo pulled out the needle, and the couple thanked Chen Laogo profusely.
Recently, Song Ming's family had encountered many incidents, so they didn't have much money to pay the fee to Chen Laogo. However, Chen Laogo didn't take it to heart. He said a few words to them and prepared to leave. On his way out, Chen Laogo noticed something strange about Song Ming's house, though he wasn't entirely sure what it was yet. Chen Laogo turned back and walked around the main room of the house a few times, leaving Song Ming and his wife completely confused. After observing for a while, Chen Laogo understood the situation in his heart, so he asked Song Ming who had built this house for him. Chen Laogo pulled Song Ming aside to speak privately. Chen Laogo's actions were very strange, making Song Ming unable to understand what the old man wanted to say. "Song Ming, what is your relationship with the person who built this house?" Song Ming replied, "He is an old classmate. Our relationship is very good. Recently, his business hasn't been going smoothly, so I paid him a very high wage for the construction." Chen Laogo knew that if he spoke bluntly, it would make Song Ming furious, so he prefaced it with a few words. "In this world, there are some people whom we help, yet they are not grateful and instead bear a grudge against us." At that moment, Chen Laogo knew that Song Ming's friend had used Ya Shang sorcery during the construction. This is a dark art that destroys families. Seeing that Song Ming didn't understand the issue yet, Chen Laogo explained meticulously. "The architecture of the house has the east wall 1 brick higher than the west. The south wall is 1 brick wider than the north. This is exactly the shape of a coffin, big at one end and small at the other. And if a human lives inside a coffin, what will happen? I don't need to say more. Perhaps you can understand it yourself." Song Ming didn't believe his friend could do such a thing. He went around the house to inspect it once, but 15 minutes later, Song Ming seemed to realize it. Although he verified Chen Laogo's words, Song Ming couldn't understand why his classmate would harm him like that. After waiting for Song Ming to vent his anger, Chen Laogo slowly spoke to him about the principles of life. Your mistake was being too good to people. This is human nature. People are jealous of you, so they certainly won't be happy watching you enjoy life. Chen Laogo was not wrong. A person who does no wrong, but earns more money than others, lives better than others, or even works harder than others, will still be envied and hated.
Song Ming had been fatherless since childhood. This was the first time someone had taught him how to be a man, and he suddenly felt incredibly grateful. First, Chen Laogo wanted to break the Yasheng sorcery. He did not demolish the house to rebuild it, but instead placed 3 cypress logs on the west wall. To onlookers, they looked like 3 incense sticks. After that, he placed 7 large stones around the house in predetermined positions, then said it was resolved. Song Ming saw that Chen Laogo's method of breaking the spell was so simple, but thinking about living in a coffin house, he still felt a bit worried. Chen Laogo told him, "Rest assured, the previous architecture of the house was designed to suck the vitality of the living and recruit demons and ghosts. The Yasheng sorcery calls it coffin terrain, destroying human qi, attracting foxes and guiding ghosts, ending the bloodline forever. In exchange, now, after my arrangement, the house has changed to Eastern Mountain Rises, Gods and Buddhas rejoice, official promotion and wealth, family prosperity and blessings come." After Chen Laogo finished breaking the Yasheng sorcery, he gave Song Ming a few instructions and prepared to leave. At this moment, Song Ming thought of that evil friend and went mad with anger, wanting to find him to settle the score. Otherwise, he would feel guilty towards himself. Chen Laogo didn't say much. He really cherished this hard-working young man in his heart. He patted his shoulder and advised him before leaving. "The path is chosen by yourself. I won't say much, but I advise you one thing. A true man knows how to endure to achieve great things."
Song Ming stood in the courtyard all night, thinking about the advice Chen Laogo had left behind. In the end, he listened to Chen Laogo and did not seek revenge on his friend. Instead, he calmed his mind, focused on farming and business, and a few years later became a wealthy tycoon with countless properties. Later, Song Ming entered the city to do business. From a small repair worker, he became the boss of a large-scale architectural company. As for that friend, due to cutting corners on materials and mistreating workers, his business suffered increasing losses, and he eventually disappeared. The father and son walked and talked about Song Ming. Chen Laogo also took this opportunity to teach his hot-tempered son a lesson. At this moment, Chen Xiaobian mentioned the Earth Jiao. Since it had started appearing recently, he asked Chen Laogo, "That's right, Dad. Were those 2 spirits also forced by the Earth Jiao to harm people? And was the elementary school incident also caused by the Earth Jiao?" Chen Laogo had received news from the Fox Immortal that this Earth Jiao was about to undergo a heavenly tribulation, something many cultivating animals fail to survive. Therefore, it was absorbing living human souls to increase its power to overcome the calamity. Chen Laogo could not stand idly by regarding the Earth Jiao matter. A battle with the Earth Jiao was certainly unavoidable. Chapter 23. Guardian Spirit. The elementary school was almost finished. Waking up early in the morning, Chen Xiaobian saw his father hooking the guanding suo onto a white iron bar. Chen Laogo looked like he was making a fishing rod, which Chen Xiaobian found very strange. The time to fight the Earth Jiao was approaching, and the urgent task for the father and son now was to prepare to deal with the beast. Holding the fishing rod in his hand, Chen Laogo said he wanted to go find an assistant. It turned out the Earth Jiao was about to transform into a dragon. Going up to the sky or down into the water was no problem for it. Chen Laogo's strategy was that in the sky there was the soul-hooking bird clan, on the ground there were the corpse-eating dog and Hu Shan but under the water they were currently lacking an assistant. Before facing the Earth Jiao, Chen Laogo went to the riverbank west of the village to find an old monster under the river for help. Hearing about the place where they had previously retrieved the floating female corpse, Chen Xiaobian curiously asked Chen Laogo what the monster under the river was. Chen Laogo did not answer Chen Xiaobian. He lowered his head and sighed, telling Chen Xiaobian about the Earth Jiao's past. Only when Chen Laogo spoke did Chen Xiaobian learn that more than 20 years ago, Chen Laogo had gone down into the Demon King's tomb and had encountered the Earth Jiao, which was known as the Tomb Guardian Spirit. More than 20 years ago, when Chen Laogo broke into the Demon King's tomb, not knowing the situation down there, he had located the tomb passage and dug a tunnel there using the Guanding Suo.
At this moment, Chen Laogo's assistant was Hui, responsible for scouting due to their large numbers, while Willow Immortal Red Dragon stayed by his side for protection. Chen Laogo led the two immortal families down to the Demon King's tomb to investigate the situation there. The Demon King's tomb was not magnificent or majestic. It was formed by caves. The tomb door was not grand either, but it was very sturdy and heavy, emitting a dense demonic aura from within that would terrify anyone. The Hui family spirit went ahead to scout the path. Seeing no traps in front of the door, Chen Laogo dared to step forward, open the door, and look inside. When the door opened, a dozen rats ran inside to check for traps within the tomb chamber. The peculiar design of the chamber surprised even someone as experienced as Chen Laogo. Inside the tomb chamber was a massive burial hall with over 10,000 human skeletons used as sacrificial objects piled up into a stupa. Sitting on the waist of the stupa were about a dozen white-robed mages buried along with the master, and at the top of the stupa was the tomb master wearing a tri-colored ritual robe. Although these white-robed mages had been dead for hundreds of years, their bodies had not rotten but turned into purple bruised dry corpses. Chen Laogo believed they all had the potential for corpse mutation. The tomb master sitting at the top of the stupa was also a dry corpse, but it emitted a pungent demonic aura that frightened even Chen Laogo. The pile of 10,000 white bones gave off a heavy stench of rot and decay, making the entire tomb feel like purgatory. Knowing this was the Demon King's tomb built by the followers of the White Lotus sect leader during the Qing dynasty for their Demon King, Chen Laogo did not dare to act rashly. He observed carefully for a long time before daring to take another step. Just then, Chen Laogo discovered that the eyes of a white-robed maid in the middle of the stupa had turned red and started to move, exactly like a corpse reanimation. But just as Chen Laogo wanted to observe further, he suddenly heard the cries of the two immortals.
Sure enough, the two immortals also sensed the danger. They immediately looked towards the exit and cried out. Chen Laogo reacted slower than the two immortals. Turning his head, he discovered a massive black shadow rushing towards him at extremely high speed. Waiting until Chen Laogo saw clearly, he discovered that the creature had already snatched Kui away at breakneck speed and flew straight to the front of the main tomb. Its lightning-fast speed left Chen Laogo and Liu Xi and Qi Long unable to react in time. When they first entered, Kui had scouted and found nothing, so why did an Earth Jiao suddenly appear? Where did it come from? At this moment, Kui's life was paramount. Chen Laogo didn't think much and immediately launched the Guanding Suo, and Qi Long also shot up like an arrow towards the Earth Jiao. Chen Laogo's Guanding Suo never missed. With a thud, it pierced the Earth Jiao's neck, causing it to scream in pain. Qi Long coordinated perfectly with Chen Laogo, immediately rushing past the Earth Jiao, lowering its head to the creature's mouth to snatch Kui out. Although Kui was saved and brought to the ground, he had already lost consciousness because the Earth Jiao's poison had seeped into his body.
Witnessing his comrade in arms, his life and death partner, in danger, Chen Laogo's heart felt like it was burning. He knew that all things mutually generate and inhibit each other. If Kui didn't die this time, it would still take decades of cultivation to recover. Chen Laogo told the fellow rats to quickly take Kui out, while he turned to look at the Earth Jiao in front of him with a gaze full of hatred. Chen Laogo knew that the Earth Jiao hadn't let him and the two immortal spirits detect it when they entered. Surely its cultivation was much higher and not easy to deal with. Chen Laogo thought to pin the Earth Jiao to the stone wall to make it easier to attack, but it seemed to know his scheme. It immediately raised its head high and pulled with great force. That terrifying strength dragged Chen Laogo along with it. Qi Long, seeing Chen Laogo in danger, also rushed forward. This Qi Long had followed Chen Laogo for a long time. How could it see Chen Laogo in peril and not save him? It opened its mouth wide and bit into the Earth Jiao's 7 inches spot. Qi Long was also of the ancient snake clan. It knew that the 7 inches spot was the Earth Jiao's fatal weakness. Qi Long itself possessed extreme poison. It flew in and bit hard into the Earth Jiao's 7 inches, allowing the poison to limit the Earth Jiao's power somewhat. Seeing Qi Long tightly coiling around the Earth Jiao's 7 inches, Chen Laogo took this opportunity to jump down to a safe spot. Chen Laogo pulled the rope taut to brace himself, holding the coffin nail rope tight in one hand. With the other hand, he took out 3 more coffin nail ropes that were over 100 years old. After securing the other end of the coffin nail rope that was stuck in the earth Jiao's neck to the stone wall, Chen Laogo whipped the remaining 3 ropes hard. As soon as he released his right hand, the 3 coffin nail ropes shot like lightning toward the earth Jiao. Those 3 coffin nail ropes pierced through the 3 most important acupoints below the earth Jiao's head. Adding the one from earlier, it had been stabbed by a total of 4 ropes. Chen Laogo pulled hard, causing the earth Jiao's head to slam down, while simultaneously telling Qilong to return. Then he waved his hand, creating a circle with the coffin nail ropes to wrap around the earth Jiao. Before the earth Jiao could react, it was already tightly bound by Chen Laogo's coffin nail ropes. Immediately afterward, Chen Laogo pulled back with force.
As soon as the Guanding Suo was retracted, the earth Jiao's massive head was immediately clamped. Thinking this could subdue the earth Jiao, who would have guessed that with its terrifying strength, it shook once and arched its body down, and 2 white horns suddenly grew from its head. Chen Laogo was terrified. This earth Jiao was evolving into a dragon, not just 1 horn, but a pair of horns. Before Laogo could react, the creature yanked the Guanding Suo violently, causing his entire arm to bleed. Previously, Laogo had firmly secured the Guanding Suo to his wrist. At this moment, he couldn't release it, and was lifted high into the air by the earth Jiao. After growing horns, the earth Jiao's strength increased fiercely. It opened its large mouth, intending to swallow Laogo, but Laogo had finally managed to unfasten the Guanding Suo from his wrist. The red dragon saw that the earth Jiao was about to turn into a dragon, and was somewhat apprehensive, but seeing Laogo in danger, it didn't think twice and rushed straight towards him. Just as he was about to be swallowed by the earth Jiao, Laogo felt something slam into him, knocking him off course. He knew the red dragon had just saved him. Laogo found himself thrown far away, while the recoil force caused the red dragon to be flung back towards the earth Jiao. At this moment, the earth Jiao had its mouth wide open, waiting. The red dragon was shot right into the earth Jiao's mouth. After swallowing the red dragon into its belly, the earth Jiao aggressively writhed its body a few times, snapping the Guanding Suo into pieces.
It was unclear whether the poison of the red dragon was causing the earth Jiao pain, but the earth Jiao was seen writhing and struggling incessantly, causing the cave to shake along with it. Chen Laogo thought that during this tomb descent, he had lost 2 good friends. Just as he prepared to risk his life, he saw the tomb shaking even more violently. In the blink of an eye, the tomb was shattered by the earth Jiao and was about to collapse. Many rocks fell in front of Chen Laogo. Even with his supernatural powers, it would be difficult for him to rush through. As more and more rocks fell, Chen Laogo thought that the earth Jiao could no longer bear the pain from the red dragon's poison. After the rocks stopped falling, Chen Laogo stood there, looking at the chaotic pile of rubble for a long time. Having not shed a tear for over 10 years, suddenly his eyes became wet. Thinking of the red dragon who had gone through life and death with him for over a decade, Chen Laogo was so heartbroken that he cried like a child. Speaking of this, Chen Laogo fell into deep thought again. He knew that the red dragon was not dead yet, which was the reason he hadn't dealt with the earth Jiao all these years. It turned out that Chen Laogo could still communicate with the red dragon snake, proving that it was still alive, just trapped and unable to come out no matter how much he called. In less than 3 months, the earth Jiao would undergo its great tribulation that occurs once every 500 years. Chen Laogo wanted to use this opportunity to save the red dragon. Chen Laogo pondered for a moment longer and then said, "All right, the story has been told. Don't ask any more. Let's hurry and prepare. Tonight, we still have to face the monster in the river." Chapter 24. Treasure Gathering Toad. It was another full moon night, and everyone in Guanling village was fast asleep. The Chen father and son, preparing to deal with the earth Jiao, went up the mountain late at night. Chen Laogo said they were going to the river in the west to invite a monster to help, but for some reason, he took Chen Xiaobian to the stinking ditch at the foot of the northern mountain instead. Chen Xiaobian wondered, "Didn't you say we were going to invite a monster, Dad? Why did you bring me to this stinking ditch?" Chen Laogo patiently explained that he was here looking for something that could tempt the monster. For these creatures that are thousands of years old, time means nothing to them. It hasn't appeared for over 10 years, so if they wanted to invite it, they needed an offering.
After saying this, Chen Laogo took a jadedite bracelet out of his sleeve. Xiaobian was extremely excited when he saw this.
This was the bracelet Xiao Bian had taken from the bones of the concubine in the blood corpse tomb, a very valuable jade bracelet. It turned out the reason Chen Laogo hadn't let Xiao Bian sell or give this bracelet away was that he wanted to leave it for the monster under the river. Chen Laogo ignored Xiao Bian. He used steel wire to form a circle by the canal bank, then placed the jade bracelet inside. After preparing everything, Chen Laogo told Xiao Bian to move away from the canal bank. The Chen father and son hid behind lush bushes to wait. While the monster hadn't come up yet, Xiao Bian curiously asked his father what exactly he was looking for down there. Chen Laogo told Xiao Bian to just watch while he recounted a story from 20 years ago. Do you remember I once told you about the time I found 2 fire dragon beads on the red demon spider in Miaojiang? One for a friend, one for me. 20 years ago, after Chen Laogo saved Xiao Bian, they both lived in Guanling village. These fire dragon beads, if not nourished by a creature's poison, will lose all their efficacy. If lost, it would be a great waste, so Chen Laogo spent a lot of effort finding a host for it. After more than a month of searching, Chen Laogo found a purple gold treasure toad with high cultivation living in this swamp. It used a mother-child coin as a medium, coming out every full moon to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth.
Chen Laogo observed the habits and living characteristics of the treasure toad for a while, aiming to make it the host for the fire dragon bead. On a full moon night, Chen Laogo went to the swamp. While the treasure toad was moving the gold coin, he threw the fire dragon bead out. The bead rolled into the swamp, continuously emitting red light and radiating dense yin energy. It was an alluring treasure for cultivating creatures. The treasure toad was no exception. It was quickly attracted by the fire dragon bead and retracted its gold coin. Observing nothing suspicious around, it jumped towards the bead with extreme speed, covering about 7 or 8 meters. The treasure toad opened its mouth wide and swallowed the fire dragon bead into its belly. The fire dragon bead is a sinister, poisonous item that ordinary animals cannot harbor. But the treasure toad is a creature of the 5 poisons. Not only did it not fear the bead, but it was also delighted. After swallowing, the treasure toad's whole body burned hot and trembled. Perhaps because the treasure toad couldn't stand the heat, it jumped into the swamp and stopped absorbing the full moon's essence, disappearing since then. Chen Laogo saw that he had found a suitable host to nurture the fire dragon bead, so he left with peace of mind. The treasure toad had been nurturing the fire dragon bead for exactly 20 years now. Now Chen Laogo brought Chen Xiaobian here to retrieve that fire dragon bead. Hearing Old Dog's explanation, Xiaobian finally understood that beneath the water was a purple gold treasure toad. While the father and son were talking, Xiaobian saw the water move slightly. The two quietly ducked down again to observe. They only heard bubbling sounds and saw many air bubbles rising, as if something was about to surface. Before long, the purple gold treasure toad poked its head out, looked around, and seeing no danger, slowly crawled ashore. Seeing the treasure toad on the shore, the father and son quickly prepared, ready to strike. The foolish treasure toad was mesmerized by the jadeite bracelet and didn't notice Chen Laogo and his son approaching. The treasure toad was very sensitive to treasures. It greedily put on the jadeite bracelet without noticing the steel wire under its feet. Chen Laogo knew the time had come. He immediately launched the Guanding Suo tied to the wax rod and told Xiaobian to cast the net simultaneously. Xiaobian was just waiting for this. Hearing his father shout, he immediately threw the net. The treasure toad was now tightly wrapped by Chen Laogo's Guanding Suo and captured by Xiaobian's fishing net.
The back of the treasure toad contains deadly poison, and it is very agile. Normally it is not easy to catch, but this time it was captured by the father and son duo of Chen Laogo. They waited under the moonlight for 2 hours, but it only took a minute to catch it. The treasure toad was caught in the net with no way to escape. The father and son put on gloves and tied it tightly to a tree. The treasure toad stuck out its tongue, motionless, as if it were dead. Chen Laogo understood that this was their survival technique, specifically the ability to play dead. Chen Xiaobian saw a glittering gold coin on the treasure toad's back and felt tempted to take it, but was immediately stopped by Chen Laogo. This is its life treasure. Don't touch it. There are many more valuable items in its lair.
Chen Laogo took the red yang needles out of his sleeve and approached the treasure toad. I am only taking back what is mine. I will not harm you, rest assured. After the poison on the treasure toad's back had drained out, causing most of the tree trunk to rot,
Chen Lao finally felt safe enough to use the red yang needles. Being potent artifacts, just 2 needles were enough to make the treasure toad tremble all over, leaving it only able to use the yin force of the fire dragon bead to resist. The fire dragon bead that the treasure toad had swallowed 20 years ago was slowly regurgitated. As soon as the fire dragon bead was fully out, Chen Lao quickly reached out to retrieve it. Chen Lao sensed that the power of the fire dragon bead, having been nurtured inside the belly of the extremely poisonous treasure toad, had continuously increased. Chen Lao was very satisfied and instructed Chen Xiaobian to release the treasure toad. Normally, when asked to work, Chen Xiaobian would complain incessantly, but this time he was unusually enthusiastic. Chen Lao suddenly remembered that he had just mentioned there were many treasures in the treasure toad's lair. Needless to say, this money-grubbing kid had hatched a dark scheme again. Before Chen Lao could finish speaking, a splash was heard. Chen Xiaobian had jumped straight into the water along with the treasure toad. Few people ever came to this swamp because it stank too much, but Chen Xiaobian only cared about the treasures, so he disregarded the foul water. Chen Xiaobian followed the treasure toad closely and, sure enough, discovered a cave under the swamp that was emitting a glittering light. A few minutes later, Chen Xiaobian emerged from the water with an extremely happy face. He had definitely made a haul. At this moment, Chen Xiaobian felt neither tired nor cold. He happily ran to Chen Lao, pulled gold ingots and gold coins out of his pocket, and placed them on the ground. This time, Chen Lao was truly surprised. Although the treasure toad was good at collecting treasures, likely have held on to this hoard for several hundred years, its cultivation speed was extremely slow. Even after several hundred years, it hadn't attained significant cultivation base. Chen Xiaobian quickly wrung out his clothes. Unable to wait, he asked Chen Lao about the treasure toad. "Dad, how did that toad find the treasures? Can it find more?" Seeing Chen Xiaobian so excited, Chen Lao explained to him that in the human world, the treasure toad is known as an auspicious object because of its habit of collecting gold and treasures, which is also its method of cultivation.
Jin Chan is the most spiritual creature among the 3-legged golden toads, as it collects the most gold, jade, and jewels. But the precious toad is a difficult entity to encounter. Legend has it that before the Qing dynasty, the Shen family, one of the 8 great families of the capital, found a 3-legged golden toad and became wealthy thanks to it. It is said that the ancestors of the Shen family raised the 3-legged golden toad in the transport canal of the city moat. At that time, many merchants gathered to trade at the transport canal, so a significant amount of gold, silver, and precious items fell into the river. Every 10 years, the Shen family would go to the golden toad's dwelling to retrieve the treasures. Because they collected more and more treasures, the Shen family quickly became the wealthy tycoons of the region. Since then, they addressed the great immortal precious toad as the High Immortal, and this continued for over 100 years. Chen Lao's words made Chen Xiaobian's eyes light up, the reflection of the precious toad visible in his gaze. "Dad, then let's raise a precious toad too, so we won't have to worry about not having food in the future." But a single sentence from Chen Lao left Chen Xiaobian stunned. "This harms the cultivation of the 3-legged precious toad. The Shen family later had all their assets confiscated, leaving them without a single coin." Hearing Chen Lao say this, Chen Xiaobian also felt guilty towards the precious toad. Although he thought so, his hands didn't stop scooping treasures into his pocket. Seeing that Chen Lao didn't react, he wanted to quickly bring them back. After the father and son obtained the fire dragon bead, they went from the foot of the northern mountain to the riverbank in the west. Arriving at the riverbank, Chen Lao held up the fire dragon bead and spoke down to the river. "Old monster, this is the treasure I promised you back then. I have brought it." Chen Lao swiftly threw the fire dragon bead into the river. Chen Xiaobian remembered his father saying this bead could sell for 200,000 yuan. More importantly, it was a priceless treasure, very hard to come by. Seeing his father not blink an eye, Chen Xiaobian thought that to deal with the Earth Jiao this time, even if a great price had to be paid, his father probably wouldn't regret it. It was unclear what transaction Chen Lao had with the monster under the river, but he seemed to trust it very much. After Chen Lao finished speaking a few sentences, he led Chen Xiaobian away from the river. At this moment, Chen Xiaobian discovered the water surface bubbling furiously, and a massive shadow was moving beneath the water.
Sure enough, just like the previous time retrieving the floating female corpse,
Its red eyes appeared for a moment before diving back into the river. After leaving, Chen Xiaobian immediately asked his father about the monster under the river. It accepted father's treasure, so will it take action to help? Can it defeat the Earth Jiao? Chen Laogo trusted these Dao-cultivating immortal families more than humans, so naturally he wasn't afraid of it breaking its promise. As for winning or not, just doing one's best was enough. It turned out that according to Chen Laogo's plan, the main force was still the father and son duo. On the ground, they had the help of the corpse-eating dog and Huxian Air. In the sky, there were over 100,000 of the soul-hooking bird tribe. Chapter 25. Blind Old Lu's Trade, Part 1. That evening, a delicious aroma wafted from the home of the Chen father and son. This was a rare occasion for the impoverished Chen family, because they had obtained a lot of money from the abode of the precious toad the day before. The father and son were very happy and decided to splurge for once, cooking many delicious dishes. The delicious food was merely the meat dishes that others ate daily, but for Chen Xiaobian, who only ate vegetables all year round, it was already a lavish feast.
Chen Xiaobian eagerly said, "Father, we haven't given Hu Jiashen Air some offerings yet. Let's eat quickly after that." Chen Laogo immediately replied, "Not yet. I guess someone is about to visit." Just as Chen Laogo finished speaking, a knocking sound was heard outside the door. When Chen Xiaobian opened the door, he felt strange in his heart. How did his father seem to know the future? It turned out this was the benefit of being a Chumaxian. Chen Xiaobian was talking to his father while opening the door when he saw a long stick poking in. Looking closely, he saw it was blind old Lu coming with his guide stick. This blind old Lu usually not only told fortunes and read feng shui for people, but also did business. Not sure what business he had this time. Chen Xiaobian was still quite vague, but Chen Laogo was a man of the Jianhu. He knew old Lu must have a purpose for coming here. He didn't rush to ask, but invited blind old Lu in to eat. Chen Xiaobian saw his father picking up food and pouring wine for blind old Lu without talking about business, so he just lowered his head and ate. Blind old Lu didn't stand on ceremony either. He sat down, ate the food, and drank the white wine Chen Laogo poured. After finishing the wine, old Lu finally stated his purpose for coming. He wanted to discuss a business deal with him, something that for 10 miles and 8 villages around, no one could do except the father and son duo. It turned out that near old Lu's shop in the market, there was a shop specializing in selling goat meat, and business was usually not bad. The owner was about 30 years old, surnamed Shu, named Shu Daijun. He usually slaughtered cattle and goats for sale himself, and was a hard-working man. He was a rough man. Usually he didn't say anything nice when doing business, just lowered his head and chopped meat. His life was considered well-fed and clothed, but he still didn't have a wife. Every night when closing the shop, this vigorous 30-year-old man having no wife and living alone found it hard to bear. Every night he had to drink wine to forget his sorrows, but the more he drank, the more painful it became. Actually, before that, Shu Dajun had a wife, who was also very beautiful. The couple lived together very happily, but not long after marrying into the family, she became crazy. The crazy wife said there were ghosts in the house. Sometimes she screamed, sometimes she shouted loudly, and eventually she couldn't take care of herself. After finishing tiring work, he had to take care of his wife. By the time he can sleep, it was already midnight, but it didn't end there. Every night she slept, she would see a huge black shadow at the head of the bed, with a terrifying ghost face and red eyes staring at her, wanting to swallow her alive. Every day at midnight, his wife would scream that a skull ghost wanted to eat her flesh, giving Shu Daijun no peace to sleep. Finally, her mother took her back home to care for her.
Often hearing his wife's screams, the neighbors rumored that Shu Dajun beat his wife, so no girl dared to get close to him. He also couldn't remarry. Every time he felt sorrowful, he turned to alcohol to drown his sorrows. But a month ago, business had been poor for a few days, so Shu Dajun drank even more. Just as he was preparing to go to sleep, he suddenly heard a creaking sound at the window, like the sound of scratching glass. Shu Dajun turned his head to look and broke out in a cold sweat, startled. Perched on his window was a massive black shadow, and not only that, it also had a white skull. Chapter 26. The Trade with Blind Old Liu, Part 2. That skull ghost looked straight at Dajun. On its body there were many hands, scratching creak creak against the window. The sound emitted was extremely terrifying. Shu Dajun was so scared he dared not move a muscle. The skull ghost looked at Dajun for a while and then disappeared into the night. Only then did Dajun start to react. He tremblingly went to find a knife in the kitchen and opened the door to check. But at this moment, the courtyard was completely empty. Nothing was seen anymore. Not seeing the skull ghost, he felt more at ease, and now Da-jun suddenly remembered the words of his crazy wife. However, Da-jun thought it was because he had drunk too much, plus the pressure from the words his wife had said earlier, causing hallucinations, so he thought nothing of it and went back to sleep. But how could he sleep after something like that happened? In the middle of the night, he tossed and turned, unable to close his eyes, when suddenly he heard a gulp-gulp sound in the courtyard. The sound wasn't loud, but in the quiet night, it was very clear. Da-jun to hear that the sound was coming from outside his window. At this moment, Da-jun dared not go out. He listened carefully and realized the sound was coming from the wooden bucket placed next to his window. Waiting until the sound was gone, Da-jun finally dared to open the door to check. Da-jun was scared out of his wits when he saw that the wooden bucket, which had been full of fresh blood from slaughtering buffaloes and goats, was now licked clean. Could it be a ghost drinking blood? Thinking of this made Da-jun feel terrified again. From that day on, Da-jun discovered that every full moon, the bucket of blood outside the door would disappear. However, since the ghost only drank blood and did him no harm, he wasn't as worried as before. Until a few days ago, while he was sleeping, he heard a strange noise on the ceiling, so he opened his eyes to look. When he opened his eyes, he was scared out of his wits. That skull ghost, not knowing how it got into the house, was crawling on the roof beam, staring at him. Da-jun was too scared to move. Seeing this, the skull ghost rushed towards him, making him scream in shock. The skull ghost crawled close to him, face to face about 10 centimeters away. Its foul stench assaulted his nose, combined with its horrific appearance, terrifying Da-jun immensely. That skull ghost observed Da-jun for a long while, then turned its back and crawled up to the ceiling. Luckily, it didn't harm him. Waiting until the skull ghost crawled away, Shu Da-jun finally dared to let out a scream like a madman. At this moment, Shu Da-jun's scream was so loud that it woke up the surrounding households. People rumored that after Da-jun's wife went crazy, he also went crazy, and Da-jun's house had turned into a ghost house.
From then on, everyone stayed away from him and his house, making it impossible for Da-jun to do business, and his life became increasingly difficult. Having no other choice, Shu Da-jun followed recommendations and sought out blind old Liu to catch the ghost, hoping to return to his life as it was before. Blind old Liu relied on these things to get by, so upon hearing this, he immediately agreed, and simultaneously went to ask the Chen father and son for help. Chen Xiaobian heard and understood, thinking that his father would certainly refuse, because they were still preparing to battle the Earth Jiao. He was about to speak up, but the words wouldn't come out. He didn't want too many people to know about this Earth Jiao matter. But unexpectedly, Chen Lago took a puff of his pipe and said that right now there was nothing to do, that Earth Jiao would take another 2 months to undergo its great tribulation, and Chen Xiaobian couldn't help with the preparations anyway. Didn't you brat, say the other day that I'm old now and you should handle these things? Now is your chance to show your filial piety. A moment later, Chen Xiaobian understood. His father was using a goading strategy to force him to participate in this case. Since his father had agreed, Chen Xiaobian had no reason to refuse, so he immediately started discussing the price with blind old Liu sitting opposite him. Blind old Liu said while eating, "This time the client is paying a price of 10,000 yuan. As the middleman, I'll only take 1,000 yuan. The rest is yours." Chen Xiaobian did not expect this blind old Liu to be so righteous. The price he mentioned made Xiaobian very satisfied. However, Xiaobian couldn't help but wonder, would this blind old man wash his hands of the matter and run off? I still need an assistant to come along. But unexpectedly, a single sentence from his father made Xiaobian almost cough up blood in anger. Oh, Liu wouldn't do that. On the contrary, it's you. Just don't swindle doggone out of his money. Xiaobian thought this trip would only take about 2 days and wouldn't interfere with the grand battle against the Earth Jiao, so he felt at ease packing his things. After blind old Liu had eaten his fill and Xiaobian finished preparing the gear, the two of them bid farewell to Chen Lago and set off. Chapter 27. The Deal with Blind Old Liu, Part 3. Chen Xiaobian began his ghost-catching journey alone, without his father, for the second time in his life. When Xiaobian and blind old Liu went to find Dogon to join them, it was already dusk. Dogon was unhappy the entire way because last time Xiaobian had given him a very small share. The previous earnings were 2,000, but he was only given 200. Later, when discovered, Xiaobian only coughed up another 200, and yet he still dared to seek out Dogon again. Xiaobian knew he was in the wrong, so along the way he could only laugh it off, promising he wouldn't dare do such a thing ever again. But unexpectedly, after Dagon let go of the past grievance, he suddenly became smart and asked Xiaobian how much money he was getting this time, leaving Xiaobian caught off guard and unable to react in time. Seeing Dagon ask like that, Chen Xiaobian hesitated for a long time, not daring to answer, making Dagon boil with anger. "Are you trying to play me again?" In fact, Chen Xiaobian was calculating this. He hadn't thought of the best way to tell Dagon yet. After all, blind old Lu was still here, so it wasn't easy for him to bluff. Dagon saw Chen Xiaobian stammering for a long time without answering, immediately knowing he was planning a trick, and his anger flared up. At this moment, blind old Lu spoke up. "You two don't argue anymore. I took this job. Chen Xiaobian doesn't know the price. Only I know." These words of old Lu rescued Chen Xiaobian. He actually took all the responsibility upon himself. Blind old Lu offered a price that immediately calmed Dagon down. "The homeowner gave 6,000 yuan. The three of us will split it equally, 2,000 yuan each." In his heart, the amount didn't really matter. What mattered was not being deceitful like Chen Xiaobian. At first, Chen Xiaobian was touched that blind old Lu helped him out, but suddenly the old man signaled him. Before this, he said he would only take 1,000 yuan as a fee. Now, adding the earlier part, the total would be 2,000 yuan. The problem was that Chen Xiaobian had his own hidden grievances right now, so he had to swallow this anger. Although Chen Xiaobian was very angry, he couldn't do anything but look at blind old Lu with a bitter gaze, thinking that his own cunning was no match for these seasoned Jianghu veterans. Chapter 28, Demon House. At 9 p.m., the three of them, including Chen Xiaobian, arrived at the buffalo meat seller Su Dajun's house. The homeowner was waiting at the door and welcomed them enthusiastically. As soon as blind old Lu entered the house, he took the upper hand, calling Chen Xiaobian and Dagon his disciples. Chen Xiaobian wanted to retort, but for the sake of making money, he accepted acting out a scene with the blind man. Blind old Lu performed very methodically at this moment, just like a deceptive Jianghu warlock, claiming to be a star descending to Earth to subdue demons. However, Su Dajun trusted him very much, listening to old Lu and leaving the house to stay elsewhere for 2 days. As soon as Su Dajun left, he immediately changed his tone with Chen Xiaobian and Dagon. After saying a few words to them, he quickly left. Gone was the majestic air of an immortal master. Now he looked just like a cowardly, dishonest merchant. They originally wanted to get some information about this ghost, but who would have thought this blind man would flee so decisively? Chen Xiaobian had studied with his father for a long time and learned quite a lot, but he rarely acted on his own. The information at hand was scarce. They could only take it one step at a time. Chen Xiaobian tried to recall old Lu's words and led Dagon to the wooden bucket to observe.
Chen Xiaobian remembered old Liu once saying that every month on the full moon, that ghost would come here to drink blood. This was a crucial clue. Today happened to be the full moon, so Chen Xiaobian guessed the creature would return, and the two of them would hug the tree to wait for the rabbit. Thinking of this, Chen Xiaobian took out the Guanding Suo to measure the wooden bucket. According to his plan, they would set a steel wire trap on the bucket. Once the ghost fell into the net, there would be no escape. Just like that, they decided to proceed with the plan. As Dagon turned to leave, he was pulled back by Chen Xiaobian and reminded a few more times. Chen Xiaobian had a premonition that the ghost this time would not be easy to deal with, so they could not afford the slightest mistake. After instructing Dagon, Chen Xiaobian tied one end of the Guanding Suo tightly to the pillar in front of the warehouse door, while holding the other end firmly in his hand, hiding behind the door. As for Dagon, he would hide at the house window to observe conveniently. They sat and waited until the third watch of the night, which was when the full moon was brightest. At first, Dagon was very alert, but after waiting too long, combined with the hard farm work that morning, he unconsciously closed his eyes. Suddenly, he heard a clattering sound outside the window. Dagon immediately opened his eyes to look out, and when he saw clearly what was there, he woke up instantly. Dagon didn't know exactly what he was seeing. It had a gigantic body like a centipede, but with a skull for a face, looking terrifying. Chen Xiaobian dared not sleep. He remained on high alert, gripping the steel wire tightly in his hand.
That ghost only cared about the bucket of blood in front of it and did not notice the two people nearby. Seeing the ghost approach the blood bucket and stick its head in, it ceasedly drank the blood inside. Chen Xiaobian realized the opportunity had arrived. He immediately stepped out of the warehouse and pulled hard on the Guanding Suo. Borrowing leverage from the pillar used for slaughtering goats, Chen Xiaobian gave the Guanding Suo a strong tug. Earlier, Chen Xiaobian had set a trap at this wooden bucket. Pulling the other end of the Guanding Suo caused the steel wire on the bucket to retract,
wrapping tightly around the skull ghost. Knowing it was caught, it immediately struggled with its head. At this moment, the ghost's head was clamped inside the bucket, and it struggled incessantly. Da Gong curiously stepped out to look. Worried, Chen Xiaobian immediately ordered Da Gong to go inside the house, but he dawdled and did not listen, thinking the ghost had already been caught. Chen Xiaobian knew this ghost's entire body was like a sensory organ. Sensing someone approaching, it swung its tail and whipped Da Gong in the stomach. Seeing Da Gong injured, Chen Xiaobian immediately wrapped the Guanding Suo around one more time, then ran towards the house. The skull ghost smashed the bucket, its red eyes staring fixedly at Chen Xiaobian.
Chen Xiaobian pulled hard on the coffin nail rope, dragging the skull ghost away from Da Gong. Seeing Da Gong stand up, Xiaobian felt relieved. Xiaobian handed the coffin nail rope to Da Gong, telling him to pull the rope into the house and find a place to secure it, while he himself stayed back to deal with the ghost. At this moment, although the skull ghost was tied up in front of the warehouse door, its tail struggled ceaselessly, whipping at Xiaobian, but luckily he was agile enough to dodge. Once Da Gong secured the rope inside the house, the skull ghost was restrained in the courtyard. Hearing Xiaobian, it seemed Da Gong had been possessed by ghost poison, but he didn't feel unwell anywhere. Only when Da Gong raised his hand did he see his skin had changed color and gradually felt numb. Xiaobian fished a red pill out of his pocket and told Da Gong to take it. Da Gong, seeing the pill was so small, probably thought it wasn't enough and wanted to take two. Xiaobian's face boiled with anger. "Damn it, one pill is worth several thousand yuan. If it weren't for you not listening to me, I wouldn't have lost money." Seeing Xiaobian gritting his teeth and nagging, Da Gong felt a bit confused inside. Would this Xiaobian really be willing to let him take such precious and expensive medicine? It really didn't seem like his character at all. But Da Gong didn't know that Xiaobian's words were true. This time, Xiaobian was truly heartbroken over the cost. At this moment, Xiaobian drew the ancient blade, startling Da Gong. "Don't think too much. Hurry up and take the medicine, then find me 2 bamboo poles." Da Gong ran to the door of Da Jun's house to find 2 bamboo poles and brought them back to Xiaobian. Because he lost money on this trip, Xiaobian was very unhappy, his anger blazing with murderous intent, blaming everything on the skull ghost. The skull ghost sensed Xiaobian's terrifying murderous aura, its tail struggling ceaselessly in resistance. Chen Xiaobian scowled, using a bamboo pole to draw a line on the ground and telling Da Gong to stand in front of it. Seeing Da Gong standing there, Chen Xiaobian walked away, leaving Da Gong bewildered. He thought he had to fight the ghost, but suddenly he was forced to stand still. Da Gong quickly understood that if he took one more step, he would be pierced by the pitch-black, extremely poisonous tail of the skull ghost. At this moment, Chen Xiaobian rushed towards it with the sharpened bamboo pole. It didn't take much thought to realize this brat was using Da Gong as bait. Chen Xiaobian quickly stabbed, pinning the skull ghost's tail firmly to the ground with the sharp bamboo pole. Because Chen Xiaobian had sharpened the bamboo tip very well, and Da Gong was too close when he stabbed down, it grazed Da Gong's nose, scratching the skin and causing it to bleed. However, Chen Xiaobian offered a defensive compliment, saying that this scratched nose suited his heroic aura very well. This single compliment from Chen Xiaobian made it impossible for Da Gong to curse him. Chen Xiaobian took the bamboo pole with the other sharpened end towards the skull ghost. At this moment, the skull ghost looked at Chen Xiaobian not with its previous aggression, but with fear, its legs moving in panic. Seeing Chen Xiaobian about to strike, Da Gong couldn't wait any longer and asked the question he had pondered all night but couldn't understand. Why did this centipede take on such a form? Chen Xiaobian measured the centipede with the bamboo while explaining to Da Gong. This was a blood centipede living in a coffin for many years. The older it got, the higher its cultivation. Having lived with the skull for so long, they became one entity. But it only looked scary. Aside from scaring people, it couldn't do much. As soon as he finished speaking, Chen Xiaobian aimed at the 7th segment of the centipede spirit and chopped down, cutting the centipede in two. Seeing Chen Xiaobian wearing gloves and digging something out of the centipede's body, Da Gong was curious. But hearing Chen Xiaobian say he wanted to eradicate it completely, Da Gong had no objection. By the time the two of them finished dealing with the skull ghost, it was nearly dawn, and the roosters had started crowing. They rested and cleaned up, and by then the sun had reached its zenith. Before long, they heard the sound of blind old Liu stepping out from the door. Blind old Liu indeed had some cultivation. Before the two could speak, just by smelling, he knew the attribute of the monster. Smelling the foul stench, he knew it was an insect demon, and it seems these two young heroes had handled it beautifully.
Old Liu really knew how to talk. with one young hero here and one admiration there, causing the anger of the two young men to vanish without a trace. Xiao Bian knew old Liu's gift of gab, but listening to it was still very soothing, while Da Gong was so happy he couldn't describe it. Old Liu continued speaking ceaselessly. Young hero acts decisively. The younger generation is to be feared, truly divine might reincarnated. Listening to these two cunning people praise each other for a while, at first Da Gong went along with it, but later he started to feel his ears itching. Xiao Bian even came up with an idea. How about the three of us form a Jin Lan group and roam the capital unhindered? Old Liu scolded. You brat, do you want to take advantage of me? I am of the same generation as your father. Da Gong felt that he was a straightforward person and could not compare to the fox-like nature of these two old geezers. Although his mouth kept responding respectfully like that, Xiao Bian did not forget the remuneration, knowing that in front of this old fox he was still very immature. Xiao Bian also casually asked the blind man why he was blind in both eyes. The blind man sighed. Don't mention it anymore. I was hot-headed when I was young, so I suffered a loss. Xiao Bian knew that his absolute seclusion had a reason that was not simple, and he only did this to make a living because he was blind. Chapter 29. Blind Old Liu Takes the Treasure. Old Liu led Da Gong and Xiao Bian to the front of the inn to meet Da Jun at the market. It turned out that after catching the ghost, blind old Liu took the two of them to Da Jun's inn to receive the money. Xiao Bian was worried, not knowing if they would play any tricks. A moment later, blind old Liu was seen holding a cloth bundle, bidding farewell to Da Jun. It seemed the payment went very smoothly.
Chen Xiaobian and Da Gong quickly went to blind old Liu's place to collect the reward. Seeing old Liu dividing the money, Xiaobian felt impatient, wondering how he could divide the money so casually. However, old Liu didn't take it all out. He only removed his and Da Gong's shares. The remaining money stayed in the envelope, and old Liu emphasized that this remaining 2,000 yuan belonged to Xiaobian. Only then did Xiaobian discover his disciplined work style. After the three of them finished splitting the money, old Liu took his cane to walk them back. Da Gong felt suspicious. Why do I feel like your envelope is thicker than mine? Afraid of being found out by Da Gong, Xiaobian immediately chased after blind old Liu to ask him about his time as a mountain walker. Sure enough, this diverted Da Gong's attention. Uncle Liu, I heard you were also a mountain walker in the past. Tell me about it. Hearing Xiaobian bring up the past, blind old Liu sighed immediately. Mentioning mountain walking brought heartache. If I hadn't been greedy for wealth, I wouldn't have gone blind. When recalling that story, old Liu considered himself a young hero, but neither Xiaobian nor Da Gong believed this statement. That was a story from 30 years ago. Old Liu was only 30 years old then. Relying on his ancestral skills, he traveled through deep mountains and great marshes, searching for treasures. Because of his talent, his reputation spread far and wide, and he earned a lot of money. One time, on Changbai Mountain, hearing hunters say that human-shaped ginseng often appeared, old Liu used a 1,000-year-old wood spirit as bait and went up the mountain alone to search for the human-shaped ginseng.
Everyone knows that ginseng roots are very large. The mother root can spread up to several meters. In fact, it uses these roots to absorb the essence of trees over 1,000 years old. After burying the 1,000-year-old wood spirit tree underground, he used a red string to create a circle on the ground and carefully dragged the string, which was over 10 meters long, into the forest. Then he hid behind a large tree, sitting and waiting for the right moment. He waited for a stretch of 5 days and 5 nights. For mountain walkers, this is normal. How could one easily give up on a treasure? They have plenty of patience. Some wait for treasures for several years, even more than a decade. In the morning, old Liu used wild game meat to fill his stomach and rested. At night, he stood guard under the tree. By the 5th night, he smelled the scent of medicine coming from his trap. He secretly observed, and sure enough, saw a short, flying figure coming out of the forest. It was the human-shaped ginseng. The human-shaped ginseng was not cute like on TV. It was a ginseng demon. Although it had the body of a child and an upright braid on its head, its face and body were covered in wrinkles, looking very bizarre. That ginseng was attracted by the ginkgo wood spirit underground. It sniffed once and then jumped down. Seeing that the opportunity had arrived, Old Liu immediately pulled the red string, causing it to tighten around the ginseng. Then he threaded 5 coins onto the red string and let them slide down toward the ginseng. After the coins slid all the way down, Old Liu finally approached the ginseng. Seeing it, he was very happy. It was truly a supreme specimen. Old Liu arranged the 5 coins around the ginseng. Since this was a ginseng spirit, a formation was needed to hold it, otherwise it would run away in the blink of an eye. Then he took out some of his tools. If that ginseng touched copper or iron, its roots would break, so silver tools had to be used. Old Liu took out a silver shovel and dug carefully. Because this was a supreme specimen, if he broke even one root, it would lose all its efficacy.
Old Liu patiently dug with meticulous care and gentleness. When he had uncovered a fair amount, he saw most of the ginseng root. It was truly a superb specimen. As the saying goes, 7 taels is ginseng, 8 taels is a treasure. This root weighed over a caddy, making it a treasure over 1,000 years old. While he was happily digging, he suddenly heard a cough from behind. Old Liu was startled and immediately stuck a silver needle through the center of a copper coin to prevent the ginseng from escaping, then turned around to see a silhouette behind him. Seeing someone there, he immediately introduced himself as a Nanling Mountain Walker, a member of the Southern Treasure Identifying Sect, who had come to Beishan to dig for treasures, and at the same time asked who the other person was. However, the other party did not answer at all, but slowly approached him. As the figure got closer, Old Liu realized something was wrong. The figure was tall and thin, wearing a straw hat and a straw raincoat. As it got closer, Old Liu saw that its entire body was yellow. Old Liu realized what this was. He pretended to excuse himself to leave, then turned around, drew his blade, and shouted, "Take this, Hu-Ho." Old Liu knew what kind of creature it was. He raised his blade and slashed, tearing its hat and revealing its face.
He guessed correctly. It wasn't a human, but a Da-Ma-Hu. This monkey demon loved to disguise itself as a human, possessing a very cunning and sinister nature. Old Liu guessed it came to steal the ginseng, so he drew his dog-leg mountain opening blade to fight it. The monkey demon was strong, intelligent, and a local tyrant. It didn't regard Old Liu with any respect and rushed straight at him. Old Liu had traveled the mountains for years, encountering many demons and ghosts, and his skills were formidable. When the monkey demon rushed in, he didn't dodge, but swung his blade down. The dog-leg mountain opening blade was a precious saber from the western regions. With one slash, the monkey demon was cut in 2. Seeing the monkey cut in half, he was overjoyed. He knew this demon had harmed many mountain goers and hunters in the area, but he hadn't expected to destroy it and rid the people of this menace. As Old Liu prepared to sheath his blade and continue digging for ginseng, he saw the monkey demon transform. The 2 severed halves, one grew legs, the other grew a head. Observing closely now, he saw these 2 monkeys had short legs and long arms. It seemed the monkey from before was actually formed by these 2 combined. Now the 2 monkeys aimed straight at Old Liu, preparing to attack. He was panic-stricken, unable to guard both front and back. The situation was extremely disadvantageous. Ignoring his thoughts, the 2 monkeys immediately split to the left and right, attacking with extreme speed. The Da-Ma-Hu is a ferocious beast, possessing not only sharp claws and hard teeth, but also a cunning and sinister mind. Even tiger hunters wouldn't dare touch it. Their coordinated flank attack terrified Old Liu. The one on the left attacked first, lunging to bite Old Liu's hand. He immediately dodged and countered with a punch, but the blow was like a mere scratch to it. While the left monkey hadn't hurt Old Liu yet and stood growling at him, Old Liu thought the other one would attack from behind. Just as he heard a sound behind him, he turned his head only to see it right in front of his face. It used its claws to attack Old Liu with incredible speed, leaving him no time to react. The Mahu clawed fiercely at his face. Old Liu recalled that at that moment, he only saw a black streak flash past. Then his eyes went blank. Before the pain could register, it had already clawed his eyes apart. By the time Old Liu felt it, it was too late. His eyes were blinded, bleeding profusely. The sudden agony made him collapse to the ground. At that moment, he sensed one monkey holding his blade, while the other laughed mockingly. He thought his end had come right then and there. But just then, a human voice rang out in the dark night. Someone was saving him.
He knew that finding a person in the forest at night was not easy. Later, old Liu learned that the person who saved him was Chen Lao. He not only drove away the two monkey demons, but also dug up the ginseng, helping preserve old Liu's life.
Since then, old Liu got to know Chen Lao. This trading business was also introduced to him by Chen Lao, which could be considered not wasting old Liu's treasure-hunting skills. Chen Lao was protected by the immortal family, unlike the mountain walkers, so suppressing those two monkeys was not too difficult for Chen Lao. That statement made Chen Xiaobian extremely proud of his father. His father's skills were indeed well-deserved of their reputation. Speaking of this, blind old Liu suddenly remembered he had something he wanted to give to Chen Xiaobian. Old Liu rummaged through his bag and took out an old book, saying he wanted to gift this to Chen Xiaobian.
Although old Liu said this book wasn't worth much, Xiaobian knew that a book the old man had kept for a lifetime was certainly no ordinary item. Not wanting to make the issue too serious, he jokingly said, "Surely this isn't the copy of Jinping Mei you've been hiding all this time, is it, Uncle Liu?" Old Liu ignored Xiaobian and instructed him as they walked, saying that if he took it back to Chen Lao, he would know what the book was for. The three of them chatted as they walked. Since old Liu had just recounted his dangerous experiences from his youth, Xiaobian couldn't help but be more cautious about dealing with the upcoming Earth Jiao. Xiaobian also asked blind old Liu, "Uncle, what do you think of our skills? Will we cooperate again in the future?" Blind old Liu politely replied, "Both of you are not bad at all, very full of potential." Chapter 30, Mountain Sutra. After subduing the skull ghost and returning home, Xiaobian recounted everything to his father, including the fact that old Liu had given him the book, which surprised Chen Lao a little. Listening to Chen Lao, Xiaobian finally understood that the Mountain Sutra recorded many spiritual treasures of the world, and for the immortal families, it was a rare and great treasure. The treasure identifiers, Biabao people, always recorded precious herbs or treasures that ordinary people could hardly ever see. Chen Lao understood old Liu's motive for giving the Mountain Sutra to Xiaobian. Perhaps he also wanted to repay a debt of gratitude from years ago. Secondly, old Liu was blind and could no longer go into the mountains. His sect was considered to be without an heir, so giving the Mountain Sutra to Xiaobian was his way of ensuring the treasure-identifying sect had a legacy. Furthermore, blind old Liu knew that the Chen father and son were people who valued righteousness. Whatever treasures they found through the Mountain Sutra would pass through his hands, making it a win-win situation. Listening to his father's analysis, Xiaobian's horizons were broadened regarding the ways of old Jianghu figures. Chen Lao didn't mind Xiaobian adventuring everywhere to find treasures, but if he could live a simple life of trading like the treasure identifiers, that would also be good. Hearing his father recount blind old Liu's experiences written in the Mountain Sutra, Xiaobian felt that blind old Liu was quite pitiful, but when his father heard the word pitiful, he froze. Chen Lao finished his puff of smoke and told his son what he knew about old Liu. "Blind is blind, but pitiful? I don't see it that way. He is one of the people considered wealthy in this town. You could even call him the richest." Hearing the words "the richest," Xiaobian's jaw dropped in shock. In the center of the market, inside a luxurious two-story house, it turned out this was where old Liu lived. Not only did he have a luxurious two-story house, but he also had a beautiful young wife. To the outside world, he was blind old Liu the fortune-teller. But in reality, thanks to the income from trading treasures, he made a lot of money. When it came to enjoying life, old Liu knew how to enjoy it much more than Chen Lao did. In this society, with money, one can do many things. After Chen Lao finished describing blind old Liu's wealthy life, Xiaobian stood stunned on the spot. Chen Lao even thought he was angry at old Liu out of sheer excitement.
Following that, a question from Chen Xiaobian almost made him spit blood. That blind old Liu is truly the idol of my life, the light for me to learn from. Uncle Liu, please accept me as your adopted son. I will try my best to become just like you. Of course, afterwards, Chen Xiaobian did not actually go look for old Liu to acknowledge him as a godfather. Instead, he found a quiet place to study the Shanjing. After all, Chen Lao had praised this Shanjing endlessly, and old Liu had become the wealthiest man in the region thanks to it. How could Chen Xiaobian possibly ignore it? While Chen Lao was preparing tools to catch the Earth Jiao, since he could not be of any help, he found a quiet spot to read.
He thought that reading the book would give him a headache and make him sleepy, but unexpectedly, he was captivated by the content, reading page after page, unable to stop. The Shanxing recorded many strange beasts and heavenly and earthly treasures. Some he had heard his father mention before. There were things he had never known, and furthermore, the Shanxing classified the grades of treasures in the world. According to the records in the Shanxing, the universe was formed by the collision of many meteorites, each with its own unique characteristics. Meteorites scattered everywhere are called heavenly treasures, tianbao, which are top-quality treasures, with their uses divided into 3 grades, upper, middle, and lower. And some treasures formed by animals that have become spirits through long-term cultivation are called earthly treasures, dibao, which are also divided into 3 grades, upper, middle, and lower. The Shanxing also records that in daily human life, there are many treasures, such as horses having horse bowser, ma bell, buffaloes having ox bowser, nu bell, and even within a chicken's body, there is chicken gizzard lining, jin a chen. It also records instances of people being possessed by animals like horses and buffaloes. Chen Xiaobian became more and more fascinated as he read. Previously, listening to his father, he remembered some things and forgot others, never realizing the world was so vast. Xiaobian kept reading the Shanxing over and over again, every word imprinted deep in his mind. Just like that, a whole month flew by. For more than a month, Chen Laogo hadn't had a single day of rest. Fearing Xiaobian might make mistakes, he made all the tools himself. That afternoon, Chen Laogo crafted a powerful bow. The arrowheads were also made by him, and he wanted to test his product. Chen Laogo raised the bow and arrow, drew the string, aimed at the target, and prepared to shoot. Right at this moment, Xiaobian happily opened the door to enter the house. Just as he pushed the door open, an arrow suddenly shot out like the wind and hit the doorframe 10 centimeters from Xiaobian's face, making him break out in a cold sweat from shock. Knowing it was his father who shot it, Xiaobian immediately stepped in and shouted, "Dad, are you trying to assassinate your own biological son?" In fact, Chen Laogo had long heard his son's footsteps returning, so he wanted to tease him a bit. How could he actually hurt him? When Xiaobian entered the house and saw the items inside, he was even more astonished. It turned out that this time, Chen Laogo had prepared very thoroughly, not only readying commonly used items like the gold coin net, bows and crossbows, but also laying out several tools in the yard that Xiaobian had never seen before. Chen Laogo didn't explain much to Xiaobian, only saying that these things were useful. The earth jiao was very strong and formidable. Without using a heavy hand, it wouldn't work. Judging from the preparation of the tools, to defeat the earth jiao, Chen Laogo had used all his strength.
Chen Xiaobian knew these items cost a fortune. Just as he was about to complain to his father, his gaze was attracted by a glittering object on the ground. Xiaobian saw an arrowhead gleaming with golden light. Suddenly realizing this was the gold taken from the purple gold precious toad's lair, it turned out Xiaobian had guessed correctly. His father had used gold to make the arrowheads. Xiaobian felt his heart ache as if it were being cut. But his father said that iron and steel possess hostile energy, making it difficult to catch the earth jiao, while gold possesses treasure aura, resulting in a higher hit rate, so he had nothing left to say. Chen Laogo knew his son was heartbroken, so he quickly used the value of the earth jiao to soothe him. That earth jiao, if killed, would be worth several million. They wouldn't lose money on this trip. Only then did Xiaobian feel at ease. Seeing the time was right, Chen Laogo told Xiaobian to take out the Dingfeng Dan. Thinking about the treasure he had hoarded being eyed by his father, Xiaobian felt heartache again. He hadn't expected that the treasure he had dug out from the centipede skull ghost would also be known to his father, who now wanted to appropriate it. That night at West Mountain in Guanling Village, Chen Laogo took the Dingfeng Dan and led Xiaobian to a small shrine on West Mountain. It turned out Chen Laogo hadn't forgotten Ku Immortal. Years ago, it had been injured fighting the earth jiao and had been healing here. Chen Laogo approached the small desolate shrine and spoke into it. "Go tell Kui I have arrived." Xiaobian stood watching for a long time, but didn't notice anything. However, not long after his father finished speaking, Xiaobian heard the sound of rats squeaking throughout the desolate shrine.
From inside the cave, a rat with large red eyes crawled out. It seemed to understand what Chen Laogo was saying. When the rat fully emerged, Xiaobian saw it clearly. It was about 1 qi long, jet black, and looked quite frightening. Chen Laogo walked over to stroke Kui. It kept nuzzling its head affectionately against Chen Laogo's hand, looking very intimate with him. Chen Laogo took out the wind-stabilizing pill and gave it to Kui. Knowing it was a precious item, it leaned back to thank Chen Laogo. Cuisinart had been injured in the Demon King's tomb years ago because it helped Chen Laogo, so Chen Laogo felt guilty about it. However, since he had also saved Kui many times before, their bond could not be measured by money. After Cuisinart swallowed the wind-stabilizing pill, Chen Laogo told Kui about fighting the Earth Jiao. "Rest assured, I will definitely kill that Earth Jiao and rescue the Scarlet Dragon. It is also to avenge the grudge that has made the two of you suffer for decades." After finishing his conversation with Kui, Chen Laogo stood up to take Xiaobian home. Cuisinart raised its paw as if waving goodbye to Chen Laogo, then returned to the cave. The medicinal power of the wind-stabilizing pill was quite strong, so Kui would need a few years to digest it. Xiaobian had heard his father talk about Cuisinart, but this was the first time he had met it. He felt that it was unlike ordinary rats. It possessed human nature, and Xiaobian suddenly felt a fondness for Kui. After giving the medicine to Kui, Chen Laogo began to focus all his strength on dealing with the Earth Jiao. Xiaobian was praying to heaven and Buddha for success this time, otherwise his money would go down the drain.
Chen Laogo turned back to Chen Xiaobian, who was praying to heaven and earth, and told him to call Da Gang along. Tomorrow night, at the grave of the North Ridge Demon King, they would fight a battle against the Earth Jiao. Chen Xiaobian agreed and then asked Chen Laogo, "How much can that whole Earth Jiao sell for, Dad?" Chen Laogo thought for a moment and gave a price of about 2 to 3 million yuan. This price immediately gave Chen Xiaobian huge motivation to fight the Earth Jiao. Chapter 31. Battle against the Earth Jiao Dragon. It was another full moon night. The people of Guanling Village were sound asleep. In the desolate northern mountain of the village, a great battle was about to take place. At 9 p.m., Chen Laogo took Da Gang and Chen Xiaobian to push a cart with necessary tools up the mountain. The two bickered the whole way, giving Chen Laogo a headache just listening to them. After all, it was a battle with the Earth Jiao, so they needed to mentally prepare. Finally, the two fell silent and unloaded the items Chen Laogo had spent over a month preparing. Seeing these modern machines, the two young men didn't know what Chen Laogo intended to do. Chen Xiaobian worried that tonight the Earth Jiao would know it had to undergo a tribulation and hide underground, refusing to come out. How would they deal with it, Ben? But Chen Laogo shook his head. It turned out that these cultivating creatures understood well that heavenly tribulations were unavoidable. They could only be faced, and the outcome depended on their own fortune. Especially the Earth Jiao. It had already grown horns. If it could pass this great tribulation, it would grow sharp claws and transform into a demon dragon. If it didn't pass, it couldn't evolve. According to Chen Laogo's analysis, the Earth Jiao was waiting for this tribulation. If it wasn't too difficult, it would pass and evolve. Chen Laogo prepared these things with the purpose of creating a fake heavenly tribulation to lure the Earth Jiao out of its cave, a brilliant luring the tiger out of the mountain stratagem. After briefly explaining the plan to the other two, Chen Laogo told them to hurry up and prepare according to the plan.
Xiaobian took 5 long copper rods and inserted them into the ground at the spots indicated by Chen Laogo. He took the prepared cables, connected them to the copper rods, and plugged them into the generator. Da Gong's father was the village electrician, so this machine didn't pose any difficulty for him. In a moment, the generator was ready for use. After an hour of preparation, Laogo looked up at the sky, saw the time was approaching, and told the two young men to prepare for battle. Da Gong gripped the generator switch tightly, ready to receive the order from Laogo. Laogo handed the crossbow prepared a few days ago to Xiaobian, telling him to stay on high alert. Seeing everything was ready, Laogo looked at the sky. The time had come, so he gave the order to start. As soon as the command was received, Da Gong flipped the switch, and in an instant the crackling sound of electricity was heard. The 5 copper pillars ceaselessly conducted electricity into the ground. This was part of Laogo's plan. He was simulating the 5 thunders bombardment of a heavenly tribulation, making the Earth Jiao think that this tribulation was a lightning tribulation. Based on its cultivation, a lightning tribulation would be nothing to fear. The current had been flowing into the ground for 15 minutes, but the Earth Jiao was still nowhere to be seen, making Xiaobian very anxious. Laogo was not in a hurry at all. He kept observing the ground. Seeing to spot something, he immediately told Xiaobian to get right.
Sure enough, the ground between those 5 electric poles began to move. In a moment, its blackish head appeared amidst the electric current. This was the first time Chen Xiaobian had seen the Earth Jiao, although his father had told him about it many times. Seeing it with his own eyes was truly terrifying. Xiaobian froze, staring at its body, nearly 10 meters long, rising into the air. Seeing the Earth Jiao had surfaced, Chen Laogo immediately pulled out 3 coffin nail ropes and warned Xiaobian.
Laogo knew well that these 3 coffin nail ropes were ineffective against the Earth Jiao and were only meant to hold it temporarily. Indeed, the 3 coffin nail ropes only pierced its skin. It didn't even care, turning its head to look at Laogo, realizing that the heavenly tribulation had not yet arrived and that it had been tricked by Laogo. Seizing this opportunity, Xiaobian used his crossbow to shoot a specially made golden arrow. Whoosh! Fast, precise, and powerful, it pierced straight through the Earth Jiao's throat. Laogo, gripping the other end of the coffin nail ropes tightly, instructed Dagong to crank up the current for the Earth Jiao to enjoy. Dagong dared not delay. He flipped the power switch to the maximum level. The strong current surged along the cables toward the Earth Jiao, making it writhe in agony in midair, constantly emitting growling sounds. On the ground, Laogo released the coffin nail ropes. If it were a human, no one could withstand this suffering, but the Earth Jiao was different. Even while writhing in such pain, it could still perceive everything. The Earth Jiao turned its body, directing all its attention toward Dagong. Although half of the Earth Jiao's body was controlled by the electric current, its tail still exerted force, whipping toward Dagong as fast as the wind. Dagong froze, not knowing where to hide, when suddenly a yellow shadow appeared from the forest. Dagong was knocked over and fell with a thud, only to realize it was the great fox, which had just saved him from the Earth Jiao's attack. The Earth Jiao's tail, having just used significant strength, was exhausted. Seeing this, the great fox immediately ran over and took a big bite out of the tail meat. The tail was the Earth Jiao's most sensitive spot. Being bitten by the fox caused indescribable pain. In truth, the fox's mission tonight was to protect Dagong's safety, and it had done its utmost. Due to the extreme pain, the Earth Jiao struggled violently. It arched its body and straightened out, its terrifying strength causing the cables to snap. After the Earth Jiao broke free from the pile of electric cables, it knew everything had been arranged by its enemy, Chen Laogu. Its red eyes widened, and it opened its massive mouth to growl, staring furiously at Laogu. As if anticipating this, Chen Laogu shouted loudly, just in time, then turned and jumped up to dodge the Earth Jiao's attack. Right at that moment, a massive white shadow appeared behind Laogu. Leaping out from within was the corpse-eating dog. It rushed towards the Earth Jiao as fast as lightning. The corpse-eating dog was aggressive, opening its mouth wide to take a bite. 2 or 3 jins of the Earth Jiao's flesh were torn away, blood flowing profusely. The Earth Jiao, having been bitten so painfully, no longer had the mind to worry about Laogu. It furiously targeted the corpse-eating dog. After the corpse-eating dog finished biting off a piece of the Earth Jiao's flesh, it jumped down to the ground, chewed, swallowed the meat, and then looked at the Earth Jiao with a sly grin. It did not care about the Earth Jiao's rage. Its sly grin had a purpose. At this moment, a pack of corpse-eating dogs appeared behind it. Each one was radiating with murderous aura, creating a truly terrifying atmosphere. The pack grew larger and larger. After the dogs howled at the sky, they charged straight at the Earth Jiao. The Earth Jiao dared not underestimate the enemy. It began to coil its body. The Earth Jiao flexibly twisted its body to evade the pack's attacks, but the dogs attacked in a coordinated and orderly manner. Their strength was not inferior. The 2 sides engaged in a chaotic battle. Neither side was easy to deal with. After fighting for more than 10 minutes, the Earth Jiao was fierce but covered in wounds, while several large dogs from the aggressive corpse-eating dog pack had died. Although both sides were injured, neither was willing to admit defeat. Laogu had been observing from the side the whole time. Seeing that the Earth Jiao was surrounded by the pack of corpse-eating dogs and had little strength left to resist, he took out a steel fishing spear.
Seizing the opportunity, Chen Laogu forcefully threw the spear towards the Earth Jiao. It was a fatal strike. The spear pierced straight into the 3rd vertebra of its neck, causing the Earth Jiao to roar furiously in pain. After hitting the Earth Jiao with the spear, Chen Laogu told Dagong to crank up the electricity to the max. Another strong current surged through the Earth Jiao's body. The stab wound, combined with the electricity, caused indescribable agony. The Earth Jiao writhed in pain, struggling ceaselessly, kicking up clouds of sand and dust. Suddenly, an electric cable snapped, and the Earth Jiao was no longer restrained. It raised its head and shook its body, attempting to fly up. At that moment, the air was filled with black shadows flying across the sky. The leader was the soul-hooking bird. It led thousands of birds flying out from the forest to surround the Earth Jiao. The soul-hooking bird was truly a ferocious beast. It fiercely aimed its sharp iron claws at the Earth Jiao's eyes to scratch. The Earth Jiao was no pushover either. It opened its mouth and roared. However, seeing the flock of ferocious birds covering the sky, the Earth Jiao didn't dare to act rashly and lowered its body. The enemies on the ground were not easy to deal with either. They had already formed a besieging formation. The fox, the corpse-eating dog, plus the soul-hooking bird were all formidable opponents. How could the solitary Earth Jiao not be afraid? If they joined forces, it would be difficult to handle. Chen Lao Go saw that the time had come, so he stepped forward to speak to the Earth Jiao. Earth Jiao, you have no way out. Hand over the Scarlet Dragon, and I can let you go to face your tribulation. Although it is dangerous, there is still hope. Chen Lao Go knew that the Earth Jiao was heavily injured and still had to face the heavenly tribulation. But what he cared about most was the Scarlet Dragon. If the Earth Jiao did not hand over the Scarlet Dragon, he feared that the Scarlet Dragon would also have to suffer the heavenly tribulation along with the Earth Jiao.
Earth Jiao turned to look at Chen Lao Go, wondering what he was thinking, but in the end it did not release the Scarlet Dragon sealed within its body. Suddenly it stretched its body and flew straight into the sky, emitting an earth-shattering sound. Chapter 32, Battle Against Earth Jiao, Part 2. Earth Jiao was lured out by Chen Lao Go, then ambushed again. Its body covered in injuries, Earth Jiao flew into a rage. Once again, it broke free from the electric cables and flew into the air, turning its head back as it ascended. At this moment, it opened its mouth wide and spewed out a large amount of white smoke. Within a 1-kilometer radius, everything was covered in white smoke. The smoke contained poison. Anyone who inhaled it could not open their eyes. Chen Lao Go had anticipated this, so he had already given everyone the antidote, the Scarlet Child Pill. Everyone was fine, but the thick smoke obscured their vision, making them anxious. Sure enough, amidst the thick smoke, Chen Lao Go heard a noise coming from the direction of the forest, and immediately told them to follow. Waiting until the poisonous smoke dissipated slightly, everyone realized that Earth Jiao had fled into the forest. Earth Jiao was very cunning. Knowing it couldn't win if it stayed, it spewed the smoke to temporarily trap them, and took the opportunity to flee quickly toward the east of the dense forest. Chen Lao Go reacted sharply and immediately chased after it. Earth Jiao was still quite strong. Everywhere it ran, its sharp scales left deep marks on the trees. It wasn't easy to set everything up. How could they let it escape? Fox Immortal and the soul-hooking bird also chased after it simultaneously. Especially the corpse-eating dog, leading a pack of stray dogs, chased after it at high speed. Xiaobian, agile and robust, led the way, following Earth Jiao's tracks. After running for more than 10 minutes, Xiaobian realized they had reached a dead end. Earth Jiao was about to run out of the forest. Xiaobian chased for a while longer and discovered that in front of the forest was a not-so-wide river. Earth Jiao, fleeing in panic from the forest, saw the river ahead and immediately flew straight up into the sky. But with the soul-hooking bird guarding the sky above, having no other path, it could only dive into the river. At this point, it had no other choice, thinking it could escape via the water route.
Xiaobian saw the Earth Jiao entering the river and anxiously ran over, knowing that among the immortal families, no one was skilled in water combat. Relying on just a few people to go underwater to catch the Earth Jiao was far too dangerous. But old Chen was not worried. He had previously negotiated with the old monster in the West River, and now was the time to use it. Chen Lao Gu led the two young men to the riverbank, waiting for the old monster to appear. But after waiting for more than 10 minutes without seeing anything, Xiaobian thought it must have broken its promise. In reality, the Earth Jiao had already encountered the old monster at the bottom of the river. As soon as the Earth Jiao entered the water, it sensed danger and noticed the monster at the river bottom. The Earth Jiao looked down and discovered a pair of killer eyes staring right at it. It was the ancient mythical beast, the owl. Seeing the Earth Jiao swim down, the owl immediately waved its tail and swam over. Seeing this strange beast, the owl knew the opponent was formidable and immediately prepared for battle. Xiaobian did not know about the fierce battle underwater. The longer he waited, the more impatient he became. But old Chen sensed movement underwater. A great battle was about to begin. Old Chen was not wrong. As soon as he finished speaking, the water surface moved abnormally. A moment later, the water churned, creating a large whirlpool. Suddenly, the whirlpool disappeared, and then a large waterspout appeared. Looking closely, one could see the Earth Jiao and the old monster fighting right there. On one side was the Earth Jiao who had just entered the water, and on the other side was a monster fish weighing several hundred jin, 7 meters long, with a terrifying appearance, a mouth full of sharp teeth, a horn on its head, and covered in sharp spines that glinted with a metallic color.
The monster fish not only had a terrifying appearance, but its combat power was also very fierce. It did not fear the ferocious Earth Jiao. It rammed and struck, attacking the Earth Jiao so fast it couldn't react in time. After the two monsters fought for a few rounds, the waterspout disappeared, and both fell back into the river. Dagong, upon seeing that monster, was stunned, his mouth gaping open, asking Chen Laogo what creature it was. Chen Laogo explained that it was called an aw. It was a carp that had cultivated for several hundred years, and once it grew horns, it was called an aw. From Chen Laogo's words, the two of them realized that this monster fish had not just been cultivating for a few hundred years. Since it was an aquatic animal, combined with its profound cultivation, Chen Laogo was very reassured about its fighting capabilities. At this moment, the two monsters in the river were fighting earth-shatteringly. Underwater was the Aw's territory, so it held the upper hand. It used the horns on its head to stab into the Earth Jiao's neck. The Earth Jiao could not bear the pain and fled deeper underwater. The Aw would not let it go easily. It waved its tail and darted to the river bottom, splashing water everywhere. The dramatic underwater battle made it impossible for Chen Xiaobian to see clearly. He only saw the water surface churning violently, with water splashing in all directions. At this time, Chen Laogo stood by the riverbank, pinching his fingers in calculation, frowning. Something is wrong. According to the celestial timing, it should have arrived by now. Why hasn't the heavenly tribulation appeared yet?
It turned out that Chen Laogo wanted to save the Scarlet Dragon before the Earth Jiao had to undergo the heavenly tribulation. According to his calculations, the moment had arrived. Yet the sky remained calm and windless, the full moon still shining everywhere, with no unusual phenomena in sight. At this point, Chen Laogo was getting a bit impatient, when suddenly a sound like exploding firecrackers erupted from underwater, a loud noise that shook the heavens and earth. He saw the giant owl using its head to flip the Earth Jiao out of the water. The Earth Jiao was thrown hard by the giant owl, slamming against the cliff face. At this moment, it was visible that the Earth Jiao was exhausted, covered in wounds, some so deep that bones and flesh were exposed. The giant owl was still very fierce, its fighting spirit abundant. It surfaced, growling at the Earth Jiao, demanding to continue the fight. But the Earth Jiao was not stupid. It knew that underwater it was no match for the giant owl, so it quickly used all its strength to fly up into the sky. However, the flock of soul-hooking birds above would not easily let the Earth Jiao go. At this moment, the Earth Jiao used all its strength to spew out poison smoke, but it couldn't spew much, and the smoke had turned red. Nevertheless, this amount of poison smoke was enough to temporarily blind the soul-hooking birds, causing them to completely lose their bearings. The Earth Jiao took the opportunity to fly out of the soul-hooking birds' encirclement. Finally escaping the siege from the sky, the ground, and the water, the Earth Jiao was like a homeless dog, fleeing in panic towards the east. This time everyone was worried. Could it be that all the effort tonight was in vain? Not only did they fail to save the Scarlet Dragon, but they also lost quite a few stray dogs, and in the end they let the Earth Jiao escape.
What confused Chen Laogo the most was that the time for the heavenly tribulation had arrived, yet there was still no sign of it. Could it be that even heaven wanted to spare this beast? But right at this moment, a green fireball suddenly appeared high in the sky, flying towards the Earth Jiao. When the Earth Jiao spotted the green fireball flying towards it, it panicked and turned to flee in another direction. The speed of the fireball was very fast. The Earth Jiao had just turned around when the fireball was already upon it. The green fireball flew into the Earth Jiao's body, creating a loud noise like furious thunder, and emitting a blue light like an electric current, burning the Earth Jiao. The three of them stood there and only saw a stream of blue light roasting the Earth Jiao's entire body. It collapsed in pain and fell to the ground. So this was the heavenly fire tribulation. Seeing that the Earth Jiao had fallen, Chen Laogo immediately ran towards it with the two young men. The place where the Earth Jiao fell was not too far. They ran for about 10 minutes to reach it. Chen Xiaobian determined the Earth Jiao's location based on the direction of the blue light. Sure enough, the Earth Jiao had fallen by the riverbank, its whole body in agony as it was scorched by the fireball. The three ran straight to the riverbank where the Earth Jiao had fallen. It was lying there, writhing in pain. Although it was being burned by fire, the three of them did not feel the heat, but only smelled a foul stench emanating from it, spreading everywhere. Only after Chen Lao spoke did Chen Xiaobian and Da Gong understand. It turned out this fireball was called ball lightning, known in the human world as skyfire. Let alone in Earth Jiao, even water, earth, and rock would be burned to ash. The Earth Jiao's entire body was being scorched by the skyfire. It wouldn't be long before it turned into dust. Just as Chen Lao said, soon the Earth Jiao's body curled up into a lump, constantly emitting painful moans. But no matter how much it struggled, the skyfire wrapped tightly around it and burned. Before long, it lay motionless on the ground. An Earth Jiao over 10 meters long was burned to ash in an instant. Then a thick column of smoke rose to the sky. The monster Earth Jiao was finally punished by heaven. Chapter 33, Battling the Earth Flood Dragon, Part 3. The tomb-guarding spirit of the Demon King, the Earth Jiao, had harmed countless people and was finally burned to ash by heaven using a fireball. After the three saw the Earth Jiao's body turn to ash and rise up, they witnessed another strange phenomenon. All three saw a stream of black gas appear. Looking from afar, they could see countless terrifying faces within it, constantly rising into the air and then vanishing.
It turned out these were all the wronged souls that the Earth Flood Dragon had murdered. The Earth Flood Dragon used them to absorb yin energy. Through this heavenly tribulation, they were liberated and went on to reincarnate. Chen Xiaobian made a few comments about that monster, but suddenly noticed his father's face had darkened. He bowed his head and said nothing. Seeing his father like this, Xiaobian intended to say a few words to comfort Chen Lao, but feared it would only make him sadder. He understood that in the battle with the Earth Flood Dragon, everything Chen Lao did was to save the Scarlet Dragon. Xiaobian guessed correctly. Right now, Chen Lao was heartbroken, recalling the time he spent with the Scarlet Dragon. A close affection, inseparable. Chen Lao blamed himself for being incompetent, for not being strong enough to save the Scarlet Dragon, resulting in the Scarlet Dragon being burned together with the Earth Flood Dragon. Chen Lao did not speak, nor did he want his son to see him in this state, so he just lowered his head towards the ground and walked down the mountain. Xiaobian had never seen Chen Lao in such a painful state, but he understood his father's mood, because he had heard many stories about the Scarlet Dragon from his father since childhood. Now he didn't know what else to say, only knowing to follow behind him. Although the Scarlet Dragon was gone, there was still this son to keep him company. As the three of them prepared to leave, they suddenly heard a splashing sound from the water. The three turned their heads to look and saw bubbles rising on the water surface, followed by the giant owl surfacing. The giant owl rose to the surface, holding a red scarlet chain snake in its mouth. Seeing that red snake, all three wondered in their hearts, could it be the Scarlet Dragon? The three quickly approached the riverbank. By this time, the giant owl had brought the snake to shore. The three hurried over. Chen Lao was endlessly astonished. Indeed, it was the Scarlet Dragon. Chen Lao emotionally bent down to examine the Scarlet Dragon. Its whole body was motionless, but it was not dead yet.
While everyone was focusing their attention on Sik Long, Kut Nao silently dove back into the river. Chen Lao didn't even have time to thank Kut Nao. He was solely concerned with Sik Long, whose soul and spirit were running low. If this continued, it would surely die. Hearing that the soul was fading, everyone turned to look. Had Sik Long's soul already entered the cycle of reincarnation? They only saw a rush of spirits flying out like thick smoke in the air. Chen Lao dared not delay. He immediately carried Sik Long inside and told the two young men to prepare the tools. He had to perform a soul-summoning formation. Chen Lao took out from his sleeve a cylindrical object about 10 centimeters long. Chen Xiaobian heard his father say that it was the skin Sik Long had shed during its first tribulation crossing, which served as its life-protecting treasure. Previously, Chen Lao had also used this item as a medium for the Chuma Shanxian ritual to meet Sik Long. It happened to be suitable as a soul-summoning object now. Chen Xiaobian obeyed his father's instructions, took off his shirt and spread it on the ground to create a simple ritual altar. Chen Lao placed a keyspade in the middle of the shirt, then bit his 2 index fingers until they bled. He sat cross-legged, pressed his 2 index fingers together, and then used the blood-stained fingers to simultaneously draw characters on both sides of the keyspade.
Very quickly, Chen Lao finished drawing the soul-summoning talismans on both sides of the Scarlet Dragon's protective keepsake. After finishing the 2 talismans, he dripped blood from both hands onto the keepsake and stood up. Chen Lao instructed Chen Xiaobian to follow the southern direction of the keepsake to find 3 soul-guiding incense sticks, allowing the unconscious soul of the Scarlet Dragon to follow the smoke back to its body. Since the scarlet dragon's soul had left its body in the water, Chen Laogo told Dagong to carry the scarlet dragon near the riverbank to facilitate the soul retrieval. The two young men followed Chen Laogo's arrangement while he sat down to prepare for the soul summoning. Chen Laogo formed hand seals according to the ritual altar ceremony, chanting a spell in his mouth. Heaven and earth communicate, descending to the earthly path, the 10 directions of the world, soul and spirit drifting far. The scarlet dragon was about 4 meters long and weighed several dozen caddies. Lifting it over one's head was not something an ordinary person could do. Next, Chen Laogo chanted, Spirit Snake Scarlet Dragon, 371 years old, Jia Wu Ding Gui. What Chen Laogo was chanting was the birth time Baozi of the scarlet dragon, to easily locate its soul among the myriad of spirits out there. Then, using his status as the scarlet dragon's Chuma disciple, he summoned the scarlet dragon's soul back. Dagong, carrying the heavy scarlet dragon, dared not be negligent. Although his arms were tired, he did not dare to let go, knowing the importance of this matter. After the ritual was completed, Chen Laogo and Chen Xiaobian dared not make a sound. Both observed the scarlet dragon's body. Then, Dagong felt a slight movement in the scarlet dragon's body, but the movement was so faint that he wasn't sure. He held his breath to sense it, and indeed it was not an illusion. The scarlet dragon had truly moved.
Hearing Da Gang's cheerful call, Chen Laogo immediately ran over. Chen Laogo emotionally hugged Scarlet Dragon. Sure enough, he could feel its faint breathing. Scarlet Dragon had revived. Chen Laogo was so happy that he shed tears, his voice trembling. Scarlet Dragon moved slightly, opening its eyes to look at Chen Laogo with affection. Although Scarlet Dragon was very weak, through its eyes one could see the deep affection between it and Chen Laogo. Chen Laogo gently hugged the injured Scarlet Dragon tightly and carried it home. Finally, Chen Xiaobian saw that Chen Laogo had resolved the knot in his heart. This was the first time they had seen Chen Laogo so happy. After going through a fierce battle, the three of them peacefully descended the mountain. After this night, all three were exhausted and mentally drained. Only now did they feel the aches all over their bodies. Chen Xiaobian felt sorry for his father having to carry the 50-caddy Scarlet Dragon and wanted to offer to carry it for him. But Chen Laogo, heartbroken for Scarlet Dragon, refused to let go no matter what. Da Gang kept teasing Chen Xiaobian from the side, but deep down he was touched by the affection between Chen Laogo and Scarlet Dragon. At this moment, Chen Xiaobian suddenly remembered something that made him jump. Seeing Chen Xiaobian trembling all over, Da Gang thought he was jealous of Scarlet Dragon. Chen Xiaobian suddenly recalled that to fight the Earth Flood Dragon, they had sold all the valuable things in the house, thinking they could recover a few 100,000 yuan from the Earth Flood Dragon. But who would have thought that the Earth Flood Dragon was burned to ashes by the heavenly fire? Let alone a treasure, not even a single scale remained. Now Chen Xiaobian felt as if the sky was falling, his mood extremely unstable. Thus the father and son returned to poverty as before. Chen Xiaobian was heartbroken to the point of dying. However, saving Scarlet Dragon was the most important thing. No matter how much money it cost, it was worth it. Chapter 34, Blood-Sucking Little Ghost, Part 1.
After a night of fierce battle with the Earth Jiao, it was finally burned to ash by heavenly fire. Returning to peaceful days, after the father and son went home, they rarely opened the door to go out. In fact, these days they were busy burning talismans and performing rituals indoors. Wanting to save his friend of over 20 years, Chen Laogo treated the Scarlet Dragon for 7 days until it recovered some vital essence, and its complexion looked much better. To help the Scarlet Dragon recover quickly, Chen Laogo told his son to buy eggs from hens over 3 years old for it to eat. Through treatment with the soul solidifying technique and eating creatures with strong vitality, although the Scarlet Dragon could not recover to its previous state, at least it could move on its own and cultivate by itself. Chen Laogo poured all his heart into caring for the Scarlet Dragon. And first, Chen Xiaobian was a bit jealous, but seeing the Scarlet Dragon getting healthier, he also felt happy. However, Xiaobian was unhappy because every time, his father spent all their money. Seeing their poor family situation getting poorer, Xiaobian felt helpless. Some time ago, they invested all their money into fighting the Earth Jiao, but the result yielded nothing in return. For the past few days, there had been no income. If this continued, they wouldn't even have rice to eat. Not wanting to worry Chen Laogo, Xiaobian had to think of a way himself. The remaining tools after fighting the Earth Jiao, although not worth much money, were better than nothing.
Xiaobian waited in front of the door for a while, and sure enough, a middle-aged man riding a tricycle arrived. He was the person Xiaobian was waiting for.
The person who arrived was the scrap collector in the village, named Chen Laolu, whom everyone in the village called Uncle Six. Last night, Chen Xiaobian had negotiated with Old Six, saying there were many items at home he wanted to sell and insisting that he drive over to pick them up, which surprised Old Six a bit. Just stepping into the house, Old Six was astonished to see the items in the yard. It turned out Chen Xiaobian intended to sell all the equipment used to fight the Earth Flood Dragon, such as cables, copper pillars, and the generator. Naturally, Chen Xiaobian had long calculated the value of these things. Selling them as scrap was truly not worth it. Chen Laogu had bought all these items for over 10,000 yuan, yet selling them as scrap wouldn't even recover half the money. Chen Xiaobian felt a stinging pain, his heart cutting with grief. Facing no other choice, Chen Xiaobian had to sell them to Uncle Six. After some arguing, Chen Xiaobian sold them for 1,200 yuan. Mentioning it made him feel heartbroken again. This 1,200 yuan wouldn't help much with the father and son's livelihood, but it was better than nothing. After Old Six loaded the items onto the truck, he didn't leave immediately, but asked where Chen Laogu was, as if he had business with him. Chen Xiaobian knew his father wasn't in the mood right now, so he deflected. "My dad isn't feeling well and is resting. Is there something you need, Uncle Six?" Unexpectedly, Old Six revealed that his house was haunted and wanted to ask Chen Laogu to come over and take a look. Hearing about a ghost, Chen Xiaobian instantly became excited and asked Old Six to recount what had happened. Old Six thought for a moment, then sat down against the wall with Chen Xiaobian, slowly smoking a cigarette and telling the story. Old Six lived in West Village with a house and a warehouse for storing scrap. Although he didn't collect much, it was enough to feed and clothe himself. His eldest daughter had gone to the city to work, and his wife had died early, so he lived alone in the house. A few days ago, while Old Six was sleeping soundly, he suddenly heard the wah-wah sound of a child crying from the yard, which woke him up. Although the sound wasn't loud, it was very piercing in the quiet night. He thought, "Are children still playing in the yard at this hour?" Old Six quickly got up and moved out into the yard. Sure enough, there was a child crawling out of the warehouse. When he looked clearly, he realized it was actually a little ghost. Because it was semi-transparent, with many blue veins bulging on its head and sharp teeth. Whose child looks like that? It could only be a ghost. Old Six knew some martial arts, and besides being over 60 years old, what was there to fear? He opened the door and went out to chase the little ghost away. As the folk saying goes, humans fear ghosts 3 parts, ghosts fear humans 7 parts, and it was indeed true. Old Lu with majestic momentum shouted loudly, causing the little ghost to disappear in fear.
Seeing the little ghost leave, Old Lu didn't pay much attention and went inside to continue sleeping. The next night, the little ghost returned. Old Lu was awakened by the sound of children laughing. Notably, it wasn't just the laughter of a single child. Old Lu sat up and looked out the window. This time, he was scared out of his wits. Besides the little ghost, there was another child about 3 years old next to it, but that child was clearly not a ghost. Old Lu recognized the child. It was Old Li's kid from the village. However, right now, the child looked like a soulless person, devoid of emotion, sitting still and waiting for the little ghost to crawl over. He had the feeling that the child's consciousness was being controlled by the little ghost. As the child spontaneously raised both hands, the little ghost crawled over, grabbed one of the child's hands, and revealed its sharp teeth to bite. Seeing this, Old Lu was startled. He couldn't let it harm the children in the village. At that moment, the little ghost's face wore a hideous grin, rejoicing and sucking blood, while the child remained emotionless. Old Lu immediately rushed out. Seeing him approach, the little ghost was terrified and flew straight into the warehouse, disappearing.
Seeing the little ghost run away, Old Lu immediately held the child and called him to wake up. The child had now recovered his consciousness. Just as he woke up and saw a stranger holding him, the child immediately cried out loud in fear. At this moment, the crying brought 2 people running there. They were the child's parents. The young couple, seeing Old Lu holding their child late at night, immediately got angry, thinking he was kidnapping the child. Old Lu didn't know how to explain, so he could only listen to the couple's vicious scolding, bearing the grievance in his heart. When the 2 of them left, Old Lu thought for a long time before understanding. Perhaps the little ghost used some sorcery to lure the child here to suck blood. Old Lu immediately returned to the warehouse to rummage and search for the little ghost, but he found nothing. He patted his head, thinking, truly muddled. how could one find a ghost? Since that incident, he dared not sleep. If that little ghost harmed another child in his yard, even jumping into the Yellow River couldn't wash away his guilt. On the third night, old Lu took a chair out to the front door to sit and watch if the little ghost would harm anyone else. Indeed, the wait was not in vain. Past 12 midnight, just as he was getting sleepy, he heard the sound of children laughing. He immediately looked towards the warehouse and saw the little ghost appear. Not only was the little ghost there alone, but he also saw the neighbor's child vaguely walking into the yard. This time, he dared not delay. As soon as he saw the child enter, he darted over like an arrow. Old Lu quickly picked up the child, then kicked at the ghost. This time was not like the last. The little ghost was not afraid of him. It knew old Lu could not harm it. Although it gradually vanished, its eyes full of hatred stared straight at him, its face constantly bulging with green veins, looking very disgusting. It grimaced at old Lu for a long time before disappearing. Old Lu smoked 2 cigarettes after finishing the story for Chen Chabian. He himself wasn't afraid of it, only afraid it would harm other children. Chen Chabian, upon hearing this, immediately perked up. The family was poor now. How could he easily let this business deal pass? Old Lu, seeing Chen Chabian say that, wondered, "Before, you father and son didn't take money. Why are you demanding a fee now?" Seeing old Lu's attitude, Chen Chabian felt a bit discouraged. Did these things all have to be done for free? Fortunately, old Lu was just joking with him. Over the years, the villagers had been helped a lot by Chen Lago and were grateful to him. Seeing his family situation like this, everyone was willing to help.
Finally, he had negotiated a business deal. Every penny saved was a penny earned, as he still had to support his elderly father. After old 6, Lao Lu, left, Chen Xiaobian was thinking about how to deal with that little ghost. At this moment, Chen Laogu called out from the yard, telling Xiaobian to hurry up and buy some things. During this time, Laogu left everything for him to handle, not caring where he got the money from. Xiaobian thought again. Catching the little ghost tonight would be much more convenient with Dagong's help, but he would have to split some money with him. The payment for this job was 1,000 yuan. The family was so poor they barely had rice to eat. Money was like a piece of one's gut. Losing a single coin felt like a loss. Not to mention, old 6 was a relative of Dagong, which made it truly awkward. As Xiaobian went to buy things for his father, he gloomily thought about how to resolve this matter. Chapter 35, The Blood-Sucking Little Ghost, Part 2. That night, Xiaobian and Dagong were in the warehouse planning to catch the little ghost. This deal earned Xiaobian 1,000 yuan. Xiaobian thought all day, but couldn't come up with a valid reason to deceive Dagong, so he could only tell the truth.
Who would have thought Dagong was so righteous? Knowing Uncle Chen's family was in difficulty, he only took 200, making Chen Xiaobian quite embarrassed. Chen Xiaobian saw a large iron cage in the warehouse, probably used for raising dogs, and immediately thought of a brilliant idea, telling Dagong to go over there. Hearing Chen Xiaobian tell him to get inside, Dagong immediately got hot-headed, thinking Chen Xiaobian intended to trick him. Chen Xiaobian's expression changed upon hearing this. He both mocked and scolded Dagong, naturally not forgetting to add the 3 words, "great hero," that Dagong liked to hear, in order to goad him. After Chen Xiaobian mocked him for a while, Dagong finally agreed to crawl into the dog cage. In reality, Chen Xiaobian wanted to use the dog cage to mask Dagong's human scent, preventing the little ghost from smelling it and fleeing. Seeing Dagong crawl in, Chen Xiaobian couldn't help but joke, "You look really like a real dog now." After arranging everything, Chen Xiaobian turned to leave, but suddenly he remembered something and went back to Dagong. Chen Xiaobian took a bamboo tube out of his pocket, dipped his finger in, and took out a red substance. Chen Xiaobian smeared the red liquid onto Dagong's eye area. Its fishy smell wafted up to Dagong's nose, making him nauseous. It turned out the thing in the bamboo tube was crow blood, from a crow over 100 years old that had eaten human corpses. In novels and records, it is written that applying this to the eyes allows one to see ghosts. Actually, there are many ways to see ghosts, such as using cow tears, willow leaves, or buffalo horn powder. But the preparation methods are very elaborate and cannot be done carelessly, so very few people use those methods. Chen Xiaobian turned and left, leaving Dagong to sit in the dog cage, a belly full of anger. There was no other way. Who asked him to be less knowledgeable than Chen Xiaobian?
Chen Xiaobian stood in front of the warehouse door.
He had come up with a plan, but he would have to suffer a little pain himself. He wanted to ask Dagong to do it, but seeing how righteous he was acting this time, Xiao Bian decided to handle it himself. It turned out that suffering pain meant taking a little fresh blood. The little ghost liked to suck blood, so only fresh blood could be used to lure it out. Xiao Bian used the black knife to make a cut, filling a bowl halfway with blood for the little ghost to drink. After preparing everything, he placed the bowl of fresh blood at the warehouse door and stood up. Then he threw the Guanding Suo hard onto the roof, letting the other end of the Guanding Suo hook tightly onto it. Xiao Bian, agile as ever, hauled onto the Guanding Suo and climbed up onto the roof to hide from the little ghost. The moon had reached its zenith. The two of them waited for over an hour. The warehouse was dead silent at this moment. Xiao Bian spotted it first. Standing on the roof, he saw a small white shadow crawling out from inside the warehouse. Observing carefully, it was indeed the little ghost, just as Old Six had described. It focused its attention on the bowl of blood in front of it and quickly crawled over. Dagong and Xiao Bian knew the time was not yet ripe and dared not act rashly. They watched the little ghost intently. The little ghost was delighted and paid no attention to its surroundings. It crawled quickly towards the bowl of fresh blood. That little ghost was just like a child. It didn't care about anything around it, focusing only on the bowl of blood. It pounced over to lick it, its appearance truly terrifying. Suddenly, the little ghost felt something strange. Something was wrong. At this moment, only Xiao Bian's voice was heard echoing from the roof. "The taste isn't bad, is it? This young master's blood isn't easy to drink." It turned out Xiao Bian had mixed some black dog blood into his own fresh blood. Black dog blood is the most young substance under heaven, specialized in countering evil. Naturally, the little ghost would feel very uncomfortable drinking it. Not only that, but Xiao Bian also poured yellowish earth-colored powder onto it, filling the four sides of the warehouse with dusty smoke. Xiao Bian then poured virgin boy urine onto the little ghost. Just a single drop landing on the little ghost was enough to make it frown in discomfort. The little ghost quickly turned around and crawled back into the warehouse. Xiao Bian immediately jumped down to chase after it. Hearing Xiao Bian shout from outside the door, the sleepy Dagon quickly woke up. Sure enough, he saw a faint green shadow crawling in. The little ghost was very agile. In no time, it had crawled into the messy pile of scrap iron on the ground, vanishing as soon as it got inside.
Seeing Chen Xiaobian arrive, Dagong immediately stood up and pointed in the direction the little ghost ran. The two dared not delay. They quickly ran to where the little ghost had disappeared. They saw that the little ghost had burrowed into the messy pile of scrap metal that Old Six had just bought. With no other choice, they had to clear away the scrap metal to find the little ghost. After more than half an hour of searching and clearing, the two finally discovered something strange. They found a jar. It looked like some kind of metal, copper or iron, covered in a green layer, containing a black object inside that didn't look like anything recognizable. Chen Xiaobian had followed his father in handling these matters for many years, so he knew quite a bit. He immediately explained to Dagong that the little ghost was 80 or 90% likely inside this jar. Chen Xiaobian picked up the ash urn, frowning in confusion. If the little ghost was a wronged soul inside this ash urn, it should be a formless spirit body. But that little ghost seemed to have a physical form, and furthermore it bit people to suck blood. The strangest thing was the little ghost an invisible ghost or a tangible demon? While Chen Xiaobian was thinking, suddenly a white shadow appeared at the mouth of the jar, as if about to crawl out. Sure enough, it was that little ghost appearing. It lunged forward, opening its mouth wide to bite Chen Xiaobian's hand. Its sharp fangs bit into Chen Xiaobian's thumb, greedily sucking blood. Dagong was worried, but Chen Xiaobian smiled, knowing it was an easy ghost to deal with. Following Chen Xiaobian's instructions, Dagong grabbed the black knife nearby. Chen Xiaobian took the knife and stabbed it straight into the little ghost's ash urn. After stabbing into the ash urn, the little ghost released its bite from Chen Xiaobian's hand in pain. It raised its head high with a pained expression, turned into a gray shadow, and vanished.
Dagong was getting more confused the more he looked, while Chen Xiaobian had some understanding, though he had never seen such a strange thing before. It was also Xiaobian's first time encountering it, but he had heard his father speak of it, so he recounted it to Dagong. It was neither a wronged soul nor a corpse fiend, but a white bone corpse demon. The so-called white bone corpse demon is formed from bones cultivating after death. This little ghost's bones had likely turned to ash long ago, but due to the long passage of time, it gained some cultivation attainment.
thus reforming into bones as before. This species likes drinking blood the most. After drinking enough, it will grow skin and become a demon king. As he spoke, Xiaobian used 2 bamboo sticks and a talisman to seal the mouth of the bone jar in a cross shape. After finishing the job, Xiaobian carried the bone jar and led Dagong out of the warehouse. After walking for a while, Xiaobian noticed the crow blood on Dagong's eyes had disappeared, and his eyes were swollen and red. Seeing this, Xiaobian got angry, because crows eat corpses, so they carry many bacteria. For crows, it's naturally fine, but for humans, it's a problem. "Did you let the crow blood get into your eyes, Dagong? You'll get an infection that way." Getting infected was a small matter. Taking medicine or getting an injection would cure it. What made Xiaobian angry was what followed, something that made him too angry to speak. The reason was very simple. Xiaobian didn't want to spend money to treat Dagong's illness. Saying he wasn't worried would be a lie. The next morning, Xiaobian took Dagong to the town to see a doctor and get an injection. While Dagong was being examined, Xiaobian took the opportunity to slip out and go to the market.
Chen Xiaobian brought the ash urn to blind old Lu for him to inspect. Blind old Lu touched and smelled it for a while, then roughly understood what was inside. Seeing that old Lu knew the story, Chen Xiaobian asked for clarification. To be honest, at a glance, Chen Xiaobian already knew this was an ancient ash urn, and he didn't want to tell Dagong about this. This old Lu was someone who really liked being flattered, insisting that Chen Xiaobian call him master. Chen Xiaobian knew his intention, but he also greatly admired blind old Lu, and furthermore, he still needed his Shanjing book, so he didn't mind calling him master. After hearing that, the blind man explained to Chen Xiaobian, "This thing is called a fenggu tan, sealed bone urn, used to store the ashes of virgin boys and girls. It is usually placed on both sides of a coffin facing the door, used to guide the soul to ascend to heaven. These children are very pitiful, possessing great resentful energy. Plus, the fenggu tan is made of copper to suppress the souls so they cannot escape, making the resentful energy even heavier. It is an object of great ill omen." Hearing blind old Lu say this object was so terrifying, Chen Xiaobian was filled with disappointment and couldn't help but sigh. He had thought it was an antique that could earn him some money. Blind old Lu, knowledgeable in the trade, how could he ignore this antique? Although it wasn't worth too much money, a fly is small, but it is still meat. Once the unclean things inside are dealt with, it could be sold to a museum. After all, it is an antique, still worth a few thousand. Blind old Lu's words cheered Chen Xiaobian up immediately, especially the final analysis. Hurry and find out where this thing was dug up. There might be a tomb there. Chen Xiaobian was greedy for money and currently broke, so how could he let pass this good opportunity?